freaking coincidence that John G. Trump was the one who went through all of Tesla's files for the Office of Alien Property, and in these exact papers, he specifically says that Tesla's ground transmission system cannot work. The mechanical vibration system cannot work. But then we find all of the golf resorts of the Trump family at key locations away from the Trump Tower. This is page 2 of the declassified files from the CIA about which papers of Tesla's were taken from his files and written by John G. Trump. I'm going to read this off for you. The Art of Telegeodynamics, or Art of Producing Terrestrial Motions at a Distance. This document is in the form of a letter dated June 12, 1940 to the Westinghouse Electrical and Manufacturing Company, proposes a method for the transmission of large amounts of power over vast distances by means of mechanical vibrations of the Earth's crust. The source of power is a mechanical or electromechanical device bolted to some rocky protuberance and imparting power at a resonance frequency of the Earth's crust. The proposed scheme appears to be completely visionary and unworkable. Westinghouse's reply indicates their polite rejection of the idea. Really, it doesn't work, yet we find all of the Trump golf resorts at key nodal points around the Earth away from the Trump Tower. So this is the Trump Tower in Manhattan, in the financial district. It's right in the exact center of the financial district, actually. This is the old Trump Tower, and had a plane crashed into it, I think 20 days before Donald Trump was born. One of only 2 other buildings besides the World Trade Center to have a plane crashed into it. But check this out. You're gonna tell me it's a coincidence that the Trump Doral Golf Resort is exactly 5,750,000 feet away from the Trump Tower, that I'm pretty dang sure, come on, that's, when are people gonna open their eyes? I don't know if he lied for the government or he lied to the government, but John G. Trump lied outright, and they are using this system.
The electron flow first produces a maximum concentration in this direction, reverses, then produces a maximum in the opposite direction. Flow reverses, maximum. This cycle repeats itself at the signal frequency. While the charges build up the most at the peaks, the highest current is where the electrons are moving the most. Where the electrons are moving the most is where you'll have the highest current power losses. Like in transmission, those power losses are ohmic losses and are lost to heat. Just like a wine glass driven at its resonant frequency shatters, and a mechanical system will oscillate until failure. If we drive the antenna at its resonant frequency and at a rate faster than it can dissipate the heat, it will become glowing red hot. But let's say we drive it with many different resonant frequencies, so that when they add together, they make a wave of extreme intense current in a localized tight spot, but a very low current all other places on the antenna. If that is applied to the long steel beams of a skyscraper, do you think something different will happen? Do you think ohmic heating won't apply here? Electricity
And friction
does melt steel beams.
I have all that on camcorder. I mean, took a tape and sort of sealed it in a box with my September 11th memorabilia. It's my own in-house time capsule, if you will. Maybe my grandkids will open it one day. But that, capture that. Wait a minute. This is a huge. How could there be an explosion without a shock wave? That means it wasn't a bomb. Of course, I would later learn once, because I didn't see the plane. A plane flew in. Okay, there it was. I have all that on camcorder. I mean, I took a tape tuned
Tesla coil, you could do the same thing if that was still insulated or in a box. Isn't that kind of cool? So if you got the right bell to get it to resonate, you can cause that to resonate. You can cause it to then emit a sound that once you stop this one, you can find it through triangulating its position from the surface. Pyramids. Bells. Ancient, coveted information during the time of Tesla for submarine warfare. In our previous example, we had a ship that had a Tesla coil on it that went into the water, and it could pick up the electrical oscillations. And I had said that you had to tune this specific electric resonator, the Tesla coil. Tuning you find where you pick up the amplitude the highest, that gives you your signal that you would get. You pan across your frequency domain to find where it hits, and you see where the amplitude increases. Instead of having specific mechanical analogs of the Tesla coil, tuned mechanical oscillator, i.e. either just a set of tuning forks or acoustic version of this. Once you get it trapped in the waveguide channel, it goes around the whole world. Now I would like to stress too, once it goes past the largest radial point of the Earth, those waves then begin converging back on themselves. And that's no longer an increasing area cylinder. While there still is attenuation of the wave as it goes further on the Earth, those waves begin to culminate back together. Everything we really thought about on wave transmission, not going far, kind of goes out the window.
But we can go deeper.
And you just ring your bell until it starts resonating the...
Do you think heating won't apply here?
On several steel columns.
Or why 3 columns have a more intense glow, followed by 6 columns that don't, followed by another 3 that do. But I have an idea.
That, to...
It doesn't have to be pyramids. You could get people at each of these places to just constantly putting the ground vibrations in by doing dances. Daily rotation of people doing prayers. Due to the seismo-electric effect, mechanical vibrations put into the earth. In the desert, parts of it will rectify into a electrical waveform, which means, let's say you're out in the desert in dune land, every step you take will send wave pulses out from where you walk. Just like in the movie Dune, where they have to do the weird step so that the sandworms don't just come and eat you alive. You have this system of sending mechanical vibrations through the ground, phased array setup. You don't have to have any giant wave, you just have to have small waves all over the place. Like the coordinated directed energy weapon. If you're out in the desert and you're walking at pace, you can be triangulated anywhere in the desert. And anyone who's got good enough phased array acoustic technology can send a ground wave to sandbar! Everything from targeted earthquakes to potential Havana syndrome sonic weapon technology that no one can seem to explain where it's coming from. Wonder where it's coming from.
Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely not. I wrote back and said, oh, holy shit, what the fuck?
It's come to my attention that my messaging may not be as clear as I would like it to be. And mostly I want to say here is, I know I share some stuff on here that's pretty heavy, and there's a lot of implications from a lot of it that may or may not sound like I'm suggesting for people to do things or otherwise do things, or that I might do anything. And I just really want to make it inordinately clear that I have no intention of doing anything to anyone for any reason. All I want is for everyone to get along. I want peace. That's it. I don't care what people do with their bells, because we know enough physics to stop anything that's put into the ground. It's just like Neo when he's fighting Agent Smith, once he realizes he doesn't even have to punch him back. He doesn't. And I just really want to make sure that it is inordinately clear, though, that I am not suggesting for anyone to do anything. Nothing. Let people live. That's all I want. Let people live. All is love.
You know, why haven't we built any pyramids? Whoa. Dude, you are asking some powerful questions right now. It's because we can't. The reason we haven't built any pyramids is not because we can't. It would be ridiculously expensive, take up a ton of manpower, because there's just no reason to. Why haven't we? Because it's a matter of, why the fuck would we? No more? We don't need any pyramids or otherwise accoutrement to the pyramids.
Our culture does not demand pyramid.
We have no purpose for them anymore. Why don't we extrapolate your logic here a little bit? I'm going to be upfront with you. That's kind of a self-read right there. Piece of evidence number 36 that has no background in other things we actually need.
And as a physicist, my guy.
Is not because there's just no reason to. No, it's a matter of why the fuck would we?
Have acoustic and mechanical vibration dampers and canceling effect temples.
It's a matter of
damping out all the mechanical vibrations and acoustics that go into the ground. All the things we do, those vibrations will continue to add up and will continue to keep resonating the earth and cause problems that could lead to earthquakes, volcanoes, all of the calamities. And like, I'm not even telling you to take my word for it here. Like, there was an actual earthquake from a Taylor Swift concert from a bunch of people jumping up and down on a single location, putting vibrations into the ground. Basic wave mechanics and physics. This is not impossible.
Holy shit, what the fuck? Honestly, that's kind of a powerful purpose for the pyramids.
It's a damper. It's an acoustic damper. It's just like how on a muffler we use Helmholtz resonators. They allow for the frequencies that they resonate at to be absorbed or attenuated and or dampened out and or reversed or canceled out by interference with the continuous wave.
Whoa. Powerful.
What those temples are for high pass or low pass filters. So you can see when we look at the side profile of this temple, we were calling bells are actually Helmholtz resonators for all the vibrations in the ground. And that's why they're not empty. They have to be solid because the ground vibrations will travel up into it if it's solid and there won't be a change in index of refraction as it goes from one medium into like an air pocket. So it being solid makes it a part of the ground resonator.
Holy shit, what the fuck?
I'm pretty sure that the reason there's so many layers for the different eras are for how they needed to dampen out the earth for the different societies that have existed at time. Each society had different vibrations according to the way they arranged themselves, the way they did their industry, the way they traveled, the way they danced, the way they did their festivals. Everything at every generation or every epoch, you would need a different kind of damper. That's why it would have to be changed.
Whoa.
I think that's what's coming. I think we need to figure out how to do what we need to do for this with our lands today.
Powerful.
Because we put different vibrations in the ground than our ancestors, and we need to figure out how to dampen the ones that we put into the ground.
Holy shit, what the fuck?
Now, it's not a coincidence that this is located on a volcanic fault line. Why would you put it there? Because you need to dampen out any of the vibrations from our society that might contribute to that fault line having other problems.
You know, why haven't we built any pyramids?
For damping out those
powerful
vibrations will cause problems.
I'm sorry. I know Graham Hancock said it.
Absolutely wrong.
Large coverage to a mainstream audience. I'm so pissed too. Because now it does shit like this. We can't even recognize the actual cool, historical facts about
500 BC, they had the mathematics, they had the physics, they had the waves, they had the music theory for it.
Instead we got fucking Alpha Sig here talking about the reason we haven't built any pyramids is we have no purpose for them anymore.
And I'm sitting here saying with all my other content, talking about how you put vibrations into the ground, you cause culminated other vibrations in other places. You shake things in one place in the earth, or you have multiple places shaking things in a coordinated fashion. All those waves will add up. This is the basis for phased array beam focusing. You shake things on the earth and it creates big waves elsewhere. You cause earthquakes, lightning strikes, tsunamis. Oh, tsunamis. You can control waves. You can stop anyone who's coming over the ocean with tsunamis.
The reason we haven't built any pyramids is because there's just no reason to.
Like, no. Just no. No. Just not, no. I'm not even going to entertain it because no.
You don't have to listen to him, buddy. Why haven't we built any pyramids other than
for damping out all the mechanical vibrations and acoustics that go into the ground that could lead to earthquakes, volcanoes, and will continue to cause problems.
You can think for yourself.
Interesting, huh? It's also not that difficult. Now, you can also sit here and go, but Charles, how would you know that these ancients had this kind of technology?
A pyramid or something.
This seems kind of crazy. Well, first off, all of our wave mechanics that goes into the exact calculations for all of this literally was invented by Pythagoras in 500 BC. 500 BC, they had the mathematics, they had the physics, they had the waves, they had the music theory for it. But still, we don't know they had this technology. Romans had to go out of step when crossing over bridges. Why did they have to do that? Because of resonance. You mean to tell me, I dare any one of you to look me in the eye and tell me that one of those brilliant generals, or whatever they called them in the Roman army, one of those brilliant generals didn't see that happen with one of their soldier marches across a bridge and go right to the Caesar and go, "Sir, do I have a weapon for you?" Their weapon was marching their legions across the earth. The vibrations put into the ground.
Listen, Graham Hancock said,
Just no.
buddy, you can think for yourself.
It's really simple. Like, it's almost becoming comically simple to me that like I've been getting called schizophrenic for even thinking. One, this basic wave mechanics in physics could even work, let alone the ancients had this stuff. That at least gives me to like 0 AD or couple hundred BC at least. Especially if you've got 500 BC for Pythagoras. And that's if he didn't get it from somewhere else. Do you guys see? Do you see what I'm saying here? Okay, so upon further looking, I guess there's no proof that the Romans knew about the bridge resonance. But come on, they made the next advancement in bridges for the semicircular. Or were they doing that they needed to make them stronger? Kind of funny, isn't it? Pretty big coincidence. And then all of a sudden their bridges got stronger. I don't know, man. Seems pretty, seems quite the coincidence. Oh, and then, oh, look at this. A couple hundred years later, the engineers had to consult with the devil to build these bridges. You mean they consulted the underworld and the vibrations that go on in the underworld to make sure they built the bridges in the right places so the bridges aren't in like high vibration earth areas because of the marching and even just the city's layout and everything? Oh, what a surprise. Wow, they consulted with the devil. You mean they consulted with the underworld? Got it.
He looks more like a teak kind of guy. I know Graham Hancock said it.
Absolutely wrong. Milo,
Did you do your own research, or did you just accoutrement to the tip?
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.
It's
That's enough!
Things are, as our illustrious Congresswoman says, a sign from God. God is sending us signals that America needs to repent.
you don't repent and pay tribute to your nearest king, God won't make your lands bountiful or send an earthquake. They're already out there claiming
If you aren't capable of
Earthquakes
believing,
around
I
the
think
world
that's
are-
rude.
Especially up to level 5. So
They got one side telling you
Kiss
it's
my
God,
ass.
you got the other side telling you it's
I'm a member
nature,
of Congress.
neither of which you can do anything about.
Why the f- would we?
It's really simple.
Our culture does not demand pyramid. There's just no reason to. We have no purpose for the pyramids, or otherwise accoutrement to the pyramids.
You don't know what this technology I've been trying to teach everyone about is possible or capable of doing.
Listen, buddy, you don't need any pyramids.
I've seen the evidence,
Don't think about what comes after or what came before.
and we are going to
Bend your knees.
needs to worry about our own country, and frankly,
Just keep consuming and consuming and consuming, and we can all dance on the grave of the planet later. Who gives a fuck? Drinking to the downfall of humanity.
Don't worry about it though. It's just nature or
it
God.
is being proven. It
Does
is.
that look like no fucking purpose for the pyramid to you?
I don't appreciate that type of language.
Ridiculous.
illustrious Congresswoman says, a sign from God. God is sending us signals that America needs to repent.
I think I rest my case. I do think it's very funny, though, watching archaeology clearly have one source for all of their information. Just listen to Graham Hancock once. Graham Hancock said,
This seems kind of crazy.
and then just, parroting. The reason we haven't built any pyramids is we have no purpose for them anymore. That one, over and over again, and clearly not doing any more digging into any
Physics, basic wave mechanics, harmonics and resonances of a guitar string and any other vibrating object.
Does Graham Hancock look like a fucking
Physicist?
to you? No, it doesn't. I know. And clearly not doing any more digging into any particular topic.
Oh, what a surprise.
Just ridiculous. But we're going to be getting into the Bass Pro Shops pyramid because there's something there that even hasn't discovered. They didn't have the luxury of the satellites that we have today that prove that butterfly effect be crazy. Anyway,
Come on.
that's lame, dude.
First I thought this guy was crazy, but then I thought to myself, what if he's onto something? Well, I decided to ask some questions about the Bass Pro Pyramid, and what I learned will horrify you. The pyramid, Giza, collapse of the Soviet Union, Bill Clinton, it's all connected, all is connected, they want the truth to be out there. I did my research, and what I found is something that they wanted to keep hidden. After I made this video, there's some very powerful people after me. I published all of my findings on YouTube before it's too late.
Hey Milo, what's going on over there, man? You're expelling a lot of energy to make it seem like this stuff is a little crazy and there's nothing connected, but you're just smearing it and connecting it to Bill Clinton and the fall of the Soviet Union. Why are you doing this, bud? Like, I've tagged you in some of this stuff. I know you should be seeing these posts. Like, there's real physics behind some of this stuff. Why are you expelling all this energy to do this? It seems weird. especially when you claim to be a real, I think, geologist or geographer, or thought you were a scientist of some sort, but now you're just doing satire to smear what, possibly real physics?
Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely fucking not. Now, I've come across this theory a lot, and you get a lot of these kind of TikTok conspiracy shills talking about
The reason we haven't built any pyramids is not because we can't, it's because
we have no purpose for them. This is also where you can tell that archaeology has no background in
basic wave mechanics and physics.
And just listen to Graham Hancock once. Oh boy. Okay, well that's the end of thank God, which means now we get to talk about something really fun, like the pyramids in Antarctica. Why would there be a pyramid in Antarctica?
I'm going to briefly explain Nikola Tesla's non-dispersive concentrated energy
The
predictor.
UPS truck is here. That's exciting. That is almost so nice. I'm not even going to bother. I'm so stoked about the UPS truck being here that I'm even going to talk about that pyramid anymore, because frankly, if it makes me want to God, this guy drives me fucking Google debunkers. And secondly, holy shit, what the fuck? Honestly, that's kind of a powerful purpose for the pyramids. I thought you said, listen, buddy, you don't need any pyramids. I'm gonna bludgeon myself over the head with this bottle so I can be thinking on the same level as you. It's less of a matter of did people reach Antarctica and more of a matter of if they did, they would have wanted nothing to do with it. It is a cold, barren, desolate place with almost no food. Antarctica is a terrible place. No human would want to live in Antarctica. Parts of the year, there's literally no sunlight. There's no wood. Like, there's just no reason to be there. God, why didn't they colonize the worst place on the planet? If they did, they didn't fucking stay there. So this theory is predicated on the fact that God, ancient people were losers. Where the fuck is the evidence for that? And yet they did it. Yeah, what a bunch of dumbasses. You know what? That's a good point. I'll agree with that, but let's do a little critical thinking here. We kind of missed the mark on that one. That's kind of crazy, but you didn't even find...
Anyway, I just needed to come in to add that because I kept watching this video, and every time I came to this part, I'm like, if I don't mention the part about the snow, people not gonna make sense. Anyway, okay, that's all I have to say.
So, do you think that it's more likely that people never found Antarctica, or... I just read a great book called The Wager. Are so fucking dangerous. There's no reason for people to want to go down there. Ice caps. I also think it's really funny that he says, why didn't we go there in wooden ships? I think that where conspiracy theorists get the whole was them vaguely remembering a kind of interesting book they read when they were a kid that talked about ice.
Post-editing Milo here.
What the fuck is this about?
I want to quickly add something. During an ice age, it's a lot colder, so a lot of the precipitation is snow instead of rain. A glacier forms from layers upon layers of snowfall. And so as the snow piles up layer after layer, it eventually creates an immense amount of weight. And under all that weight, the snow is compressed into ice. This is why it'd be really hard for an ice sheet to connect Antarctica to Latin America, because the snowfall is ending up in the ocean.
Okay, well, two things to note here. First and foremost, we are at the end of an ice age. So people talk about sea level rise from climate change. The place that all that water is coming from is Antarctica.
Whereas
6,000 years ago on the South Pole,
the snowfall
would rise a bunch. Because it's all on an actual landmass, that ice does not contribute to the height of the oceans. 6,000 years ago, the ocean sea level was like 300 feet. So at the bottom of the planet, the continent
snowfall was landing on land, allowing the layers to accumulate and the glaciers to proceed much farther.
With multiple antennas, we can create different alternating current wavelengths of electron charges oscillating within the ground. Additionally, each wavelength can be driven at whatever frequency we desire. Now, imagine a hexagonal array of antennas. No, go bigger, but the size of a city. Wrap the whole world in it. Now, wait. Let's take a step back here. Hold on, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Now, imagine the electron charges in the ground oscillating like a drum head, up and down. We can create different wavelengths, or we can create different frequencies. We can create different resonances with different nodes, different antinodes. The strings of electric charges in the ground will exhibit a similar phenomenon as the resonant harmonics of a guitar string. When you hold the 1/2 point of a guitar string and let go, it will continue that same wavelength because it is a resonant harmonic of the guitar string's whole bass note. Analogously, when we use the hexagonal array to force wavelengths into the ground that are harmonics of the Earth's geometry, we get a similar effect. Each of these antennas are like the paddles on the walls of a wave pool. Individually controlled, we can create many different patterns and resonances.
right, so now we have
To set this up. Oh yeah, good point.
And it's like 5 bucks. That is the biggest of all of them.
Look, we're doing precision shit here. It's a historic home.
Okay. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of numbers.
We're gonna have, yeah, it's gonna be a busy night. Hello, everybody. Honestly, it kind of adds to how fucking shitty it looks.
Yeah. I mean, statistically insignificant. What do we do with this?
We research, Henry. We research. I feel like we should do like a preliminary.
I was gonna say, I think we should have like a tiny bit of prep for it. The good thing is, we can get the math wrong, and people won't know if it's part of the bit or not.
We should just throw one in there that's like really wrong. Like really fucking wrong.
Some jump words like this, which is 2 times this, which is just completely
yeah. Ooh. I would say we're pretty much ready to go.
There's a key ingredient.
There's a key ingredient here. The one problem is we're in the one room with a smoke detector.
That could be changed. This is in a safe place. I'll keep it in the microwave.
So my thought is we can sort of use this as like our master sheet. So maybe write down like the volume of it, the height of it, like all the sides, like all the statistics of it. I mean, we can also throw in some other like, you know, like how much it cost to build it, what year it started.
Yeah.
We have all that information.
Give me all the stats. The Bass Pro Shop Pyramid.
That would be a great way to do it. That would be great to ask.
It said, what are all the numbers associated with the Bass Pro Shop Pyramid? Give me the height, the size, the cost, the capacity, attractions. That's not a number.
I think 600,000 gallons
This is more than.
More than. Okay, so any number greater than 6,000.
It's like a wild card. It's a freebie.
The Bass Pro Shop's pyramid. It's in Memphis, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Is this like Memphis, Egypt?
Bro.
We haven't even smoked weed yet.
It's 321 feet tall. That's pretty suspicious.
321?
Yeah. I mean, think about that. 90s. Oh, another thing we need to do is go between like meters and feet when convenient.
Oh my god.
Go between like meters and feet when convenient.
Oh my god. We should give like all of the things in like different units. Start reading me some numbers. Let's go.
Okay,
hold on. Let me get
ChatGPT.
you don't need a high bar of entry for this. I'm glad I have you doing this with me because the math one is the one that I was not looking forward to.
Go between like meters and feet when convenient.
Considering this is one of my favorite examples of the collective aneurysm that is pseudo-archaeology, riddle me this.
Riddle me this, Milo. Did you know that the original meter distance was defined as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the poles to the equator? And that the polar circumference of the Earth is nearly exactly 40 million meters? With 40 million, 8,000 meters? Yeah, pseudo-archaeology. No, talk about pseudo-physicist. So I wanna point something out here. This is where it gets that these archaeologists who don't understand how the universe works to begin with shouldn't even be resorted to as experts on this matter. Because if you can't understand the sciences of what we have today, you won't be able to understand the sciences of people that you think had less than us, if we're gonna just assume they had less. But you know, let's do some math here, actually. Let's do some math here.
I'm glad I have you doing this with me because the math one is the one that I was not looking forward to.
So I find it interesting that you think
The entire fucking universe used the metric system while America's still using imperial. Do you not think that the aliens that built the pyramids would have used something else?
Who? No. The Egyptians had the foot long before everyone else. The Romans had a foot, and the Greek also had a foot. The Roman foot is 2.96 meters. The Egyptian foot. This is kind of weird. How is the Egyptian foot exactly 0.3 meters? It's exactly 30 centimeters? That's kind of weird. Why? You know, if they were such widely created units, you would think that there would be more decimal places there to have to make them line up. Let's just assume you're right, Milo. Okay, let's think this through.
I'm glad I have you doing this with me because the math one is the one that I was not looking forward to.
Let's do this experiment real fast here. If it's just so outrageous and outlandish that these people had any kind of science, let's find the relevant period of a photon that is the wavelength of an Egyptian foot. The period is 1 divided by the frequency. So what we do is we take the distance and divide it by the speed of light. You get meters to cancel out, and you get 1 second. So that'll give you your period. And to get the frequency, you invert it. Let's look at the period here. What is this? Oh my, wow! Almost exactly 1 nanosecond. Whoa, that's pretty odd. What a weird coincidence for that to be. Let's check one of these other ones. What are the rest of these? Let's go through this kind of quickly. The Royal Cubit, accepted version is 0.525 meters. Oh wow, look at that. But then there's also the 0.523. They both straddle 1.75 nanoseconds. What do you know? Oh my god, what a coincidence. The small cubit at 45 centimeters. Oh my god, 1.5 nanoseconds. Oh what? The shoulder neck's at 37.5 centimeters. Whoa, look at that, 1.25 nanoseconds. Okay, I'll give you this one, the great span at 26 centimeters. Doesn't come out very nice, it's 8.67. It's really close to 8.66 repeated, so just hold on, we got more. Small span at 22.5 centimeters, 0.75 nanoseconds. The double hand at 15 centimeters, look at that. Ooh, it's 0.5 nanoseconds. The fist at 11.25 centimeters, 0.375 nanoseconds. And another one that's not as pleasing, but got the hand at 9.375 centimeters, comes in at 0.3127 nanoseconds. Again, it's not okay. All right, back to the palm. We're at 7.5 centimeters, coming in at 0.25 nanoseconds. And we got the finger at 1.875, comes in at 0.0625. Now look at this. It doesn't seem like there's much of a trend here, but if you look at all these periods, I'm going to go through a 0.0625, then 0.25, then 0.3127, and this is where it gets better. 0.375, then 0.5, then 0.75, then 0.875, then you've got one nanosecond. Then 1.25 nanoseconds, 1.5 nanoseconds, 1.75 nanoseconds, and 2 nanoseconds. If we even go a little bit further, we're going to look at the rod, which is 100 cubits, and then the league, which is 20,000 cubits, we got 1.75 and 3.5. See this trend here? That's pretty odd, isn't it? What a coincidence. But this gets even cooler, because if you take a look at the frequency for each of these, wow, look at this. And now it's just slightly off, and you can see I put the frequency and then like what the easy rounding is, because you can see these carry digits. You basically got 1.6, then 4.0, then 3.2, then 2.666, then it's almost exactly 2, then 1.33, and then 1.14. Okay, it's not the greatest. Then you got 9.99, which is almost exactly 1. Then you got 7.99 is almost exactly 8. And you got 6.666 is, then you got 5.71. By 5.7 essentially, and then you got 4.99, which comes to 5. The bigger ones too come out to 5.7 and 2.86. That's not the great, it's okay though. But this is just the speed of light in a vacuum. So this is what it'll be for a photon of these lengths, the frequency and period in a vacuum. That's really, come on, that's not a coincidence, but okay, let's just accept maybe it's a coincidence. Let's check what it is when it's the speed of light in air, not just the speed of light in vacuum. It's really close, so I'm not even going to go through them all. You can see it's basically the same. It's just a little bit lower, a little bit off from it. This is where it gets really cool. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Bam! Look at this. Do you see this? Come on. Like, it's not even just the period is nice, but the frequencies are so clean. Literally 8.3 repeated, 3.3 repeated, 4.16 repeated, 5.0, 6.66666666, literally 1 nanosecond, 1.1666 nanoseconds, 1.3333333, 1.6666, 2.0, 2.333, 2.6, even though the big ones are nice. Like, then I go over the period of frequency, like, come on, like, what the heck, like 1.2, it was 3.0, 2.4, like, bam, do you see this? Speed of light in water. What?
I wrote back and said, oh, holy shit, what the fuck?
I want to show you something about how I've been looking in these Egyptian foot palm units and how they tie to photonics and EM radiation. If you swipe through this, you'll see the Excel sheets I put together for each of the different foot units in history, from the Egyptians, the Romans, the Greeks, and our imperial foot. None of them line up like this. None of them, except for the Egyptian units. Take a look. You know what? If you want to call me crazy for saying the Egyptians knew about EM radiation and that the Egyptian foot is like so close to the distance light travels and it's like 1.0001 nanosecond, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the chase here. I'm going to declare the Solis Foot as the distance light travels in exactly 1 nanosecond. If the meter is defined as being the distance light travels in 1 second divided by 299,792,458 numbers for the speed of light. So it's the distance, it's the inverse of c. The distance light travels in that. I'm going to set the Solis Foot as the distance light travels in 1 nanosecond and use the exact same divisions as the Egyptians did to the palms, the hand, the fist, the foot, the cubit, the royal cubit, the pole. We'll just make everything shifted to exactly the distance light travels in 1 nanosecond. So a pole being 2 feet is the distance light travels in 2 nanoseconds. How about that? So a palm being 1/4 of a foot. All right. A palm is the distance that light travels in 0.25 nanoseconds. It's pretty easy here. We're going to call this Solis units. It's the Solis Foot and everything gears from that. The Solis Foot is equivalent to the distance light travels in 1 nanosecond. I'm calling it. No one else has it? I'm calling it.
I wrote back and said, oh, holy shit, what the fuck?
They didn't know anything about photonics. Not at all. How could they have possibly done this if they didn't know anything about photonics? It's just a coincidence, though. Yeah, okay.
You'd say, whoa, well, how'd the Egyptians figure out what the speed of light was?
How did we measure it, dude? Like, what are you talking about, man? Like...
And that would be very astute of you. Secondly, the thing that I think is even more shocking about this is the implication that ancient Egyptians used the metric system.
But you kind of miss out on all the nuance, and instead all you get is like a frat bro, gatekeeper of archaeology. You can be as interested in archaeology as you want, but don't fucking talk about
physics.
You kind of just end up looking like a goober. And now we put it all together. Here's Philo, both smug and wrong.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to do 40 million meters. Divide that by 360. Divide that by 60 divided by 60. You get our general longitude and latitude divisions. Divide that by 1,000. What do you get? What a frickin' surprise. You get the Greek foot, 0.308 meters. Oh, simple divisions of the Earth's circumference give you these ancient measuring systems? So these ancient measuring units are actually divisions of the Earth's circumference that are harmonic with the Earth's circumference. So switching between the different units has to do with using the different waves that go in the ground because they obtain different resonant wavelengths or frequencies with the Earth. The Earth will have all set numbers of resonant wavelengths. However, that is not the only way wavelengths can build up. It's just a simple first level to do, such that if you can find those wavelengths on the Earth's distance will be resonant to that. All right, so to get the old meter, you divide the Earth into quadrants, and each of those quadrants get divided into 10 million divisions. Base 10 comes from Egypt, India also, but we know Egypt did that really, really intensely. Surprise, surprise. Now though, what do we do when we divide the Earth? We do 360 degrees, then 60 minutes, then 60 seconds. Divide that by 1,000, a milli, you get the Greek foot. Instead of doing it 1,000, because a base 10 isn't always the best way to do divisions, we're gonna do 1215. Now why? Why the heck would we pick 1215?
We should give like all of the things in like different units.
Do you know what 1215 factors out to? A bunch of prime divisions. Whoa, what a surprise! And what does that give you? The modern inch. So, our 1 inch is a perfect division of Earth's circumference, which makes it a harmonic and resonant wavelength of the Earth's circumference and spherical harmonics, meaning that is a simple division of the Earth's circumference. This is like 2,500-year-old physics here. And what do you know? The nautical mile is exactly a 60th of the Earth. I wonder why they call them knots, as in nodes, as in nods in the earth, as in knots on the earth, not in the slug line. Lugan. Schiffslog. Lug.
God, I just started out on TikTok being like, oh, this is going to be really funny. Next thing you know, I'm standing in front of an audience at the University of Virginia Polytechnic Institute.
Good thing is, we can get the math wrong, and people won't know if it's part of the bit or not.
I'm glad I have you doing this with me because the math one is the one that I was not looking forward to.
Go between, like, meters and feet when convenient.
Oh my god.
Go between meters and feet when convenient. You mean... when I find antennas and things that use electromagnetic radiation through the air, I find in key harmonic places appropriate to meters.
Go between, like, meters and feet when convenient.
Or you mean I find antennas that have to literally be within specific wavelength distances from each other, otherwise it wouldn't get a proper reading. You would have interference from it. So you really think it's that crazy that we would find all our current antennas everywhere because of the wave interference all over the place, but we wouldn't find any of our construction, any of our architecture, anything we built in the exact same kind of network on the Earth, but for the ground waves that go in the Earth, the ones that our feet pound into the earth.
I'm flustered, taking out aggression with my pen because I trust it. Writing, trying to get myself a lamb color cuts for the game. Leave him hanging by his chain, click bang. Feeling rage, feeling fire in my brain, feel insane. And the story, feel the flame. 45 to my brain, praying for it, please help. No glory.
Maybe, the ones that are the waves that our feet pound into the earth. What do you know? What a surprise. It's the length of our foot. As a society, all of our pounding into the earth on averages also molds the earth. We don't live in a vacuum. Like, this isn't very complicated at all. What a surprise. Like I said, just like we found the Romans all built their bridges in key locations. Like, even the engineers had to look at the guys later had to consult with the devil in the ground. You mean the vibrations in the ground. As the Aztecs say, the horned snakes in the ground. The horned snakes that they have to battle. But they do their pounding into the ground.
A little bit of light, trying to find my heart. Funny when I break out a lifestyle dark. Honey when I write, get a tight flow spark. When a psycho drop, playing dice, go starter. Who are you? Better know yourself. Know your soul, gotta know your wealth. Slow your roll, get a hold, don't melt. And don't you fall when I feel like hell. Well, who am I? Am I me? I'm not the one you wanna fuck with. Late nights messing up my sleep, so I'm flustered. Taking out aggression with my pen because I trust it. Writing, trying to get myself a lamb color cuts for the game. Leave him hanging by his chain, click bang. Feeling rage, feeling fire in my brain, feel insane. And the story, feel the flame. 45 to my brain, being born, please hell, no glory. Taking out aggression with my pen because I trust it. But you trying to get myself a lamb color custard.
Yes, they are all natural. And do you want to know what they found? It's because it is a natural formation, no matter how much it looks like. It would have prevented you from saying something that was wrong. Unless, of course, you don't actually care about what's right or wrong, and you're just doing this to get as many clicks as possible.
On the internet.
But this video will be long and raw.
Because you're kind of a sellout. Yet again, does that seem like it makes any goddamn sense to you? Fucking God. I don't know how someone's persona can be so smug and so wrong at the same time. I don't even know if anyone actually said this or if he just made that up, because I don't think anyone in their right mind would think that he placed these stones here himself. Just throw one in there that's like really wrong. He's like, and these fucking idiots think he moved them there. Like, no, that is the lowest concern here. There are so many other things wrong that are so much more obvious.
Good thing is we can get the math wrong, and people won't know if it's part of the bid or not.
Yeah, not because it's a cover-up, because it's literally just a fucking waste of money to dig up a mountain. If you actually cared about history as much as you do, maybe you would care about actual archaeologists getting funding and resources so that they can learn more things. Or would you rather keep shelling out, you know, thousands of dollars for the next con man who said, before I show you the migraine-inducing editing capabilities of amateur internet conspiracy theorists, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, I am going to be reviewing in this video.
Welcome back to another episode of
Pseudo-archaeologists
Are Not Physicists. Right now you're going to hear Milo go into a whole little bit of a rant about how there's no possible way that anything in this Dendera light bulb has anything to do with real science, and it's just a representation of the creation myth. Well, it might still be a representation of the creation myth.
They don't want you to know the truth.
Things can be more than one thing at once.
This relief appears 4 times in the Temple of Hathor. And by this relief, I mean the light portion. And something which is going to be very important to note moving forward, this relief, which a pseudo-archaeologist bastardized from Crypt 1C on the north wall because of this portion right here, believed to be some sort of insulator, which has something to do with the bulb. Keep in mind, meaning that this entire theory revolves around just a pseudo-archaeologist bastardized carving. And you may be wondering, so there's no physical evidence to suggest that it was a light bulb. What does this theory actually base itself on? The entire theory is, as I'm sure you could already guess, based around the idea that this
looks like a light bulb. This relief depicts a glass light bulb and a filament on the inside of it, and further claim that the lotus flower is a socket that the bulb is plugged into, and that the stem of the lotus flower is an electrical wire running to some sort of power supply.
And then, of course, that the Dejed pillar that's here is
A fucking insulator or something stupid.
Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about.
Do you think there's never any extra symbolism put into things? Ever, Milo? Like, no, they've never put any double meanings in any kind of art before. Ever.
Looks like a light bulb.
Let's talk about what an electron vacuum tube is here. What you're seeing is an electron stream, a focusing ring, and a deflecting magnet. Why would you have a deflecting magnet? Well, this is how old tube TVs work. They fire electrons at the screen, they use magnets and a magnetic field to deflect it, that causes it to turn, and then it shoots at the screen, creates light. And what that light continues onto our faces, and that's what we see. Not only are these some of the first particle accelerators, not light bulbs.
And then, of course, that the Dejed pillar that's here is
A fucking insulator or something stupid.
Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about.
The more you guys continue to just insist it's a light bulb, the more you're proving you don't understand physics enough to understand what you're even looking at here. First off, electrons, as we've established in modern physics, are not just particles. They have a wave-particle duality. This wave-particle duality is quite literally the fundamental basis for how electrons build up in orbitals, is that each orbital is a resonant energy level, and the matter waves go into standing waves because they are whole number or harmonics of the wave of each electron. The wavelength of that electron is defined by the kinetic energy. This is known as the de Broglie wavelength. Each energy level of the orbital is defined as having a different energy kinetic energy, and each of those kinetic energies is associated with a wavelength of that particle. Each of these orbitals in it is considered a harmonic of the energy of the quantized energy levels. Quantum does not mean tiny, does not mean small, it does not mean particle. It means discrete 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1.2, 1.3. No, there's the first energy level, then the second energy level, then the third energy level, and they are discrete from each other. They are quantized. Now, what would a better way to represent a wave if you use animalism or animism in all your artwork? What a better way to make a picture or depiction of a wave that's a particle, but it's alive, but it's still a wave. A snake, it's literally slithering, or even a fish, or anything that wiggles is honestly a really great way to use animism to depict a waving or a oscillating or a wave-like particle duality, which, what a surprise. All these things talk about having a dual existence or the duality of divine nature. Like, wave-particle duality, the divine particles. Again, this is a perfect example of how we shouldn't be resorting to archaeologists for establishing what ancient humans may or may not have known. If we are just going to assume they had less technology than us, of course we're not going to figure these things out. If you don't understand the sciences that we have today, you might not understand how we might be so far off from their abilities, we are not even recognizing that they had science. I really don't. I can't. Like, it's getting to be like, he's got these videos littered all over where he claims to be debunking pseudoscience while just bastardizing physics and just spreading pseudo-physics. Like, come on, Milo. How many debunking videos are you going to put out before you actually address some of this stuff? You can continue to dodge all this, but I don't know what else to tell you, man. You do not have enough physics background to understand what you're looking at, and you are now bastardizing the possibility of our ancestors, or some of our ancestors, having actual sciences because you just don't want to believe it. And you don't understand it, so you just assume it's not possible. Let me tell you, dude, there's a reason they put two of these bulbs pointing at each other. We literally call them a particle accelerator or an atom smasher. What would it mean if two of these bulbs are linear accelerators and they're pointing the two beams at each other? It's a particle accelerator. You're smashing atoms, you're smashing electrons, you're smashing particles. What Milo seems to think is this is just
a fucking insulator or something stupid.
Insulator. Why in the world would you need an insulator if you've got a glass bulb to begin with? You don't. What does this actually look like? It looks like a frickin' electromagnet with coils going around it. What are the two arms sticking up? Those look exactly like the two plates on either side of what we usually use as a deflector plate inside of a vacuum tube and an electron accelerator. You can even see it in these linear accelerators that they have repeated events, repeated cycles of these. They get longer and longer as the electron speeds up. This is showing one of them. Now, no, why would you have it all in a bulb? Because you need a vacuum. Like, it's a vacuum tube. We literally call them vacuum tubes. And we call it the glass envelope. It's this insulator. Like, these look exactly the same. These are not light bulbs. They're vacuum tubes and linear accelerators. But because Milo doesn't understand what our basic physics that we established 100 years ago, actually, in particle physics, he's not picking up on this stuff and wants to continue making videos saying that this is all nonsense and pseudo-archaeology. Who's the pseudo-archaeologist now? If you can't understand what you're actually looking at and then you go perpetuate ideas of our ancestors being horribly incapable, who's promoting the pseudo-archaeology now?
Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about. Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely not.
And now, I honestly have to say this is really funny for me because I have been looking at this for years. I mean, honestly, years. I have looked at this and I was just like, oh, it's a friggin' cathode ray tube or even just a vacuum tube. But I know I can't prove it. And I swear, every time I've looked at these, though, like, I noticed the monkey at the end. And it looks like a monkey or it could be a frog. I can't tell. It looks like a monkey with a frog head. I don't know, but the guy is always holding a knife, and I just couldn't. I'm like, why are they firing a beam at a monkey with a knife, or a frog with a knife, or whatever you want to call this thing? And I'm sure I'm butchering it, and I probably need to just look it up. But it literally just hit me like it's a beam splitter. He's holding a knife where the beam is focusing at. It's a freaking beam splitter. Like, this is literally first day optics technology. Like, it's a beam splitter. It's a knife. What would you cut a beam with? A knife. Like, it's like so on the nose. It's stupid. Like, what the?
Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about. A pseudo-archaeologist getting their conspiracy theory broadcast is very similar to a white supremacist getting their conspiracy theory broadcast on Tucker Carlson. It's pretty much the highest that you can possibly go. It's the point where your conspiracy theory has hit critical mass and it starts to actually influence the public opinion. It's quite terrifying, actually. The white supremacy is actually masked a tiny bit, where on Tucker Carlson, all you have to say is critical race theory in order to get his tiny little nutsack in a twist. And because of the actions of a handful of dipshits, this conspiracy theory has now been gifted from the top to the bottom into the hands of the tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists of TikTok and YouTube. Some big cover-up. It's just not an archaeological site. So since it's not an archaeological site, why would it even occupy the airspace in, archaeological communities? I'm not gonna waste my breath. Well, I guess I am gonna waste my breath talking about a pyramid, but I have a reason, god damn it. I don't know why archaeologists would waste their breath talking about this when we have actual work to do. I'm glad I have you doing this with me, because the math one is the one that I was not looking forward to. That's not true. I can find no evidence of these. I doubt they were archaeologists, because every archaeologist who's looked at it has said it's a fucking mountain.
Bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump, 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 jump.
Whoa! You know why? Because it's of sedimentary rock. There's like layers of stone underneath that are all really loose, so when the
mechanical oscillator or electromechanical device bolted to some rocky protuberance and imparting power at a resonance frequency of the Earth's crust. The proposed scheme for the transmission of large amounts of power over vast distances by means of mechanical vibrations of the Earth's crust. The source of power is a mechanical oscillator, i.e.
pyramid.
Either just a set of tuning forks or
it makes a fucking, yes, they are all natural, pyramid in Antarctica.
I know something you don't know.
Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely fucking not. Jesus Christ, we need to fund education in this country. You can't get me this fucking riled up looking like this, bro, okay? It's ridiculous. Clearly seem to be naturally created. What is your expertise in this field, huh? Every archaeologist will tell you that is definitely just a natural rock, but me, fucking
physicist,
I know the truth.
Oh, what a surprise.
Just, I said that literally just trying to do his own
physics
research for him. You're not covering your trail very well. You kind of accidentally outed yourself there. That's because people have lived in this valley for fucking ever. That doesn't mean they built the mountain. You're finding artifacts from all different points in time in a part of the world that has been occupied for tens of thousands of years, and then just attributing it to the nearby. So is that just a rock that looks like a face? Absolutely rock that looks like a face. I'm gonna keep chugging Monster energy drinks and eating fucking McDonald's hamburgers because it's the archaeologists that are lying to us. I wish that my prefrontal cortex was soft enough to genuinely be convinced that archaeologists are the ones we need to be worried about. That's so much more comforting. Like, I really wish this was the biggest problem we faced in the world. Someone should actually tell he might actually be kind of concerned about it. If I could just sit back on my laurels and talk about fucking this mountain pyramid, that would be so much better. It's too bad that the government doesn't represent us at all and is getting funding and resources, trying to do his own
physics
research for us so that they can learn more things. Or would you rather actively trying to do harm to education in this country? Well, I'm not talking about that, so I guess go between like meters and feet must be the real problem. So this video is a complete fabrication. There is zero actual archaeological evidence that it is a man-made structure. He doesn't actually give any sources for this, obviously. So all he does is just rattle off a bunch of stats about this pyramid. We should give like all of the things in like different units. I did a little bit of research for you because I know how much you care about facts. And you know what? I'm gonna even recite it to you. Wow, so sounds like this
physics
research pyramid thing has been working out pretty well. Again, as I said earlier, I am all for finding ways to encourage education in this country. I feel like we have a good jumping off point.
I think the circumference of the Earth could be...
Oh, honestly?
Do you want this in kilometers or miles?
Fucking I care.
Butterfly effect be crazy. Anyway.
Come on.
That's lame, dude.
And if you ask me, all these crazy zealot news stations that keep making videos about all the UFO releases and all these guys are just seemingly showing nothing.
What's the answer? Where's the video, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's part of the story, and I think I'm going to have to answer that at another time, but I will say this. is that there is more footage. So some people got to see portions of it within the intelligence community. There is a bigger story to tell.
They want you to think it's this kind of technology. It's some outrageous super sci-fi stuff and not something as simple as just bell towers.
That absolute beast right there is made up of 4 M130.
This is a bell tower, playing another day of summer.
I unlocked some sort of superpower.
There are technologies at the South Pole Station that people can't even consider that exist on this planet.
But first they'll make sure you think it's Tesla towers, so they can then call you crazy.
Physically held a key that opened every single door in the facility. I had complete access to every compartment they manufactured. Directed energy weapon systems is something that people need to get in their vocabulary fast. The ice cube neutrino detector.
Just bell towers, directed energy weapons, and they're scaring us all with it too. So it's not the government, is it? Don't believe that. It's not lost in Antarctica, out of your reach. That's what they want you to believe.
What are you blowing the whistle on?
Directed energy weapon system.
Bell towers.
Simply has the capacity to transmit.
Directed energy.
As presented for the
weapons.
The science that people can't even consider.
Honestly, at this point, I'm not mad, just disappointed. Anyway, with that out of the way.
And I find it very interesting. There's so much lore behind the
spirit that takes the form of a living sand dune and can move and change shape at will. Could this have been the same creature the Russian officials were now secretly aware of? What connects Alexander the Great, Prophet Suleiman, and the Allied incursion into Iran in 1941? The Rigi Jinn Desert, otherwise known as the Dune of the Jinn. Old Persian myths concerning an extra-dimensional gateway existing at its core in the 21st century, based in and around the more accessible areas. Large parts of the Rigi Jinn remains avoided because of this. Some nomads still speak of terrifying ancient threats that exists within it. This threat may not only be a relic from ancient folklore, but something the Russian government might have encountered in the 1940s.
You want to know a sign that somebody about to give somebody a big beat down? Is when this
castle in France shows up to the Chateau de Chambord, where a dash of whimsy collide. It was a statement piece by King Francois I. Despite its size, Chambord was never fully furnished, leading some to speculate it was always meant more for show.
And guess what just deployed?
At the heart of Chambord's architectural enigma is
the restoration project on the bell towers.
They only do two things.
Announces the hour.
And kill tanks. And they are extremely good at it.
And now if this here geospatial satellite telemetry don't knock your socks off, I don't know what else will. What more proof could anyone need? Okay, so I feel like maybe I wasn't quite as clear as I could have been about what I was getting at with the Chambord castle here. To be clear, this castle is a couple 100 years old. And now if the Chambord castle is built in 1500s, and I'm saying that the entire thing is one giant ground vibration transmission system terminal component. But according to what we believe in science, no one invented that until Nikola Tesla, 1890 to 1900, and then built the first one with Wardenclyffe in 1902, and that got taken down in 1908. But this castle is clearly related to ground vibrations related to the Great Pyramid. I mean, it is 500 years old. Do you think it's kind of weird that Tesla spent a stint in France before coming to America to work for Edison?
You see it? Okay. Very nice. We have a machine downstairs that can actually program. So this is playing the bells manually. You can see those rods that I spoke of down below coming through the floor. For example, this is the smallest bell right here. Kind of like a ship's bell, huh? This is the largest bell, 2 octaves lower. Okay, you want to hear the bells ring?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to contact John Zach. Hey, John. We are in the bell tower. Everyone is anxious to hear the bells. So why don't you do, like for a big mass or something for about 30 seconds. Here we go. Okay, thank you.
A month on my salary against $10. Set it dice.
Get ready. That's obsidian. So, what'd you think? Now, it just so happens that all of these bells are given titles of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The bells that sound every 15 minutes is Mary of the Assumption and Mary of the Seven Dolours. What's interesting is this bell, named after Mary of the Annunciation, announces the hour. See how they thought this all out? So it's pretty amazing. You just never see anything like this.
I'm going to briefly explain Nikola Tesla's idea for keeping a wireless thumb on ships at sea. It's an idea of his that sets up a global resonant grid. Have the Earth, and you're going to put a transmitter on top and a transmitter at the equator. You may want to have another transmitter polar opposite, but it might not entirely be necessary. If this transmitter sends out wave pulses going around the world this way to be reconverged at the bottom here, and then they continue going past around, they go back. If the wave frequency or wavelength is resonant to the polar circumference of the Earth, it will set up standing waves across the whole globe going north to south. Then if you have a pyramid on the equator, similarly sends waves this way. They continue around the Earth that way and come back. It'll set up a longitude and latitude grid of standing waves going this way and standing waves going this way. The grid that comes across here, any ship, let's say we have a Tesla coil on the ship that's connected into the water anywhere on the Earth, let's say longitude and latitude, whatever this coil up here is tuned to, the specific chosen L2C2 will determine what frequencies this coil resonates at and what will allow signals to go up. Just like
earthquakes. But if people think they know what causes earthquakes, it's time to think again. New research reveals that quakes can be triggered not just by force deep within the Earth, but also by the revolutionary new way of extracting energy from the ground called fracking.
To me, as a research scientist dealing with natural hazards, the idea that humans can cause earthquakes is well known actually in the scientific community.
Scientists now fear that man-made quakes can morph into giants of frightening destructive power.
I was thinking, if Tesla's system of communicating and sending electricity and power through the Earth definitely works.
Everyone is thinking he's got the solution to the future transmission of energy. No, he doesn't.
Well, I don't think anyone's saying that, but what
he
they are
did,
saying
and his fans do. I recently learned I got name checked by
me and him. We got a bone to pick with you, Neil. Now, Neil, I'm just going to assume you don't know who I am. I have a good following. I'm not quite as big as you, obviously. But my name is Charlie Solis. I have a degree in physics from Michigan Tech University. And we've got a bone to pick with you. I've been trying to get your attention for a minute now about the erroneous claims you've made about Tesla's wireless transmission system. Let's go through some of this, shall we?
Speaking of Tesla and electricity, what did you think about...
The people in the Nikola Tesla fan club somehow feel that he got wronged in his life. Everyone is thinking he's got the solution to the future transmission of energy. No, he doesn't.
Well, I don't think anyone's saying that, but what
he
they are
did,
saying
and his fans do.
Let's cut through the noise. Nikola Tesla's wireless energy transmission isn't science fiction. It's misunderstood science fact.
But his contributions to electromagnetism are real and recognized in the world of physics. There's a unit of electromagnetism named after him. So don't come crying to me say he was not recognized by my people, okay?
Today we're setting the record straight.
You can't get more badass than having a unit named after you.
And yes, even the dismissals of Tesla's groundbreaking work on wireless energy transmission.
He had some ideas that were a little out there on a level where it almost certainly would have not worked. Much of the rest of his work was fringe and unrealized, either for violating known laws of physics or for being simply impractical. That's a bold statement. Electromagnetic energy, you can ask, how much energy is in that? Well, not much. Well, of what good is it? You're not going to run a motor with it. Oh, you know what we found? We can use electromagnetic radio waves. We can use radio waves not to transmit energy. That's not the point of it. As your photons get higher and higher energy, yes, you can start doing things with them. You get X-rays and gamma rays. But that's not what Tesla was referring to. He was talking about moving radio waves. This opening thesis is false. There are plenty of examples of this that have escaped your attention, and here's why.
Let's not mince words here, Neil. You got it wrong on Tesla's wireless energy transmission system.
You can't pack sufficient energy in your radio wave to do anything we need to do mechanically. If you had enough power in radio waves to power a light bulb through the air, are you standing in the way of this? You want to move it through the air and you want to walk around like, no, that's not how that works.
But I've heard
if you're moving enough energy through the air to power something that itself could kill you, the energy moving through the air could kill you.
Tyson also raised concerns about the safety of transmitting energy through the air. However, here's where the disconnect happens. Tyson's dismissal is rooted in a straw man argument. He critiques Tesla's system based on the premise that it relies on radio waves traveling through the air to transmit energy. But that's not what Tesla had in mind at all. Tesla's actual system was designed to send ultra-high voltage alternating currents, UHVAC, into the ground, not through the air. Tesla himself stated that electromagnetic wave energy, or as he called them, Hertzian waves, would not transmit through the air effectively, specifically because of the inverse square law, also referred to as dispersion issues. The men who used his magnifying transmitter in such a way, Tesla dubbed the radio men, and further mocked their efforts in a well-documented pre-hearing council meeting. So, in essence, Tyson isn't wrong because the physics he proposes is entirely accurate. It's that Tyson is debunking a version of Tesla's system that Tesla himself never proposed. By not accurately representing Tesla's actual system, Tyson inadvertently steers the conversation away from the real science and physics behind it.
So Tesla, everyone is thinking he's got the solution to the future transmission of energy. No, he doesn't.
Well, I don't think anyone's saying that, but what
he
they are
did,
saying
and his fans do.
Contrary to popular misconception, Nikola Tesla's actual wireless transmission system did not rely on transmitting energy through the air using radio waves. Instead, he proposed a system that leveraged the natural conductive properties of the Earth. Tesla's ingenious design sent ultra-high voltage alternating currents into the ground, not radio waves through the air. Tesla's system was grounded by the drive for scientific, practical, and transformative solutions, not in the world of science fiction. His idea was to use the Earth as a giant conductor, with a transmitter sending electrical currents into the globe and a receiver pulling them out elsewhere. Now let's delve into one of Nikola Tesla's lesser understood yet revolutionary ideas, the concept of transmitting electrical power using a single wire without requiring a return circuit. Such a concept stands as a significant cost-saving measure, with the potential to redefine power transmission systems worldwide.
We now send energy through wires, because you're not standing in the way of the wire. The wire is buried. The wire has insulation. The wire's on a high suspension.
In the late 19th century, the prevailing form of electrical transmission was the direct current DC system. However, the DC system had its limitations, notably its inefficiency in delivering high power over extended distances. Tesla's introduction of alternating current AC systems allowed for the stepping up of voltage and stepping down of current to drastically reduce ohmic loss. This innovation has driven the vast majority of energy transmission since its inception. He proposed using an alternating current generator to push low voltage, high current into a step-up transmission transformer. This would produce high voltage, low current for transmission across wires. The high voltage, low current would then be adjusted via a step-down transformer at the destination, yielding a manageable low voltage, high current output for everyday use. This AC system overcame the barriers of high current-related losses intrinsic to the DC systems, enabling power transmission over longer distances with much less energy loss. Yet, traditional AC systems typically required 2 wires for transmission. Tesla, ever the innovator, deemed the second wire superfluous and a wasteful expense. He endeavored to find a method to transmit power efficiently using only 1 wire, thereby eliminating the need for a return wire. To go one step further, Tesla's most radical vision was to conceptualize the Earth itself as the single wire for the simultaneous transmission of power and information. The Earth is filled with conductive materials like water and various minerals that facilitate the flow of electrical currents. By utilizing the Earth itself, the entire planet will become an interconnected energy and information network without the limitations posed by traditional infrastructure. Tesla's invention of single-wire transmission was a precursor to his ultimate aim, the wireless transmission of energy and information through Earth. Imagine rural areas gaining effortless access to power, or the possibility of transmitting vast amounts of data without the need for extensive and costly infrastructure. By potentially utilizing Earth itself as this single wire, the limitations of distance and infrastructure may become things of the past. It is upon us, the generations that follow, to recognize the brilliance in Tesla's simplified complexity and to realize the untapped potential that it holds.
Hear me! Hear this! We, the people, was not written for the rich or the powerful, but for all the people, in order to establish justice and secure the blessings of liberty. To ordain and declare our energy independence. These words, they must apply to everyone, or they mean nothing. Do you understand?
Fully understand the name Kirk.
Nikola Tesla's groundbreaking idea of using a single wire for power transmission is a revolutionary concept, though to be clear up front, this cutting-edge technology is not without its challenges. Challenges like finding the best locations on the globe for the practical application of using the ground as a conductor are still subjects of intense research, yet the potential benefits of Tesla's single-wire system are too significant to disregard. Let's dive into a simple yet powerful physics analogy to further grasp this concept. Imagine 2 balloons filled with air connected by a hose. Each balloon represents a reservoir of electrical charge, and the hose represents the single wire in Tesla's system. When we squeeze one balloon, the air flows through the hose and inflates the other balloon, similar to how electrical charges are conducted from a higher potential to a lower potential. When the squeezed balloon is released, the other balloon starts to discharge the air back through the hose. This back and forth movement of air is akin to the alternating current flow of charges in Tesla's single wire system. This alternating oscillation continues until all energy is dissipated due to factors like ohmic energy loss in an electrical circuit due to resistance and impedances. But how does this oscillation actually perform work in a practical setting? The oscillation is, in essence, a cyclic movement of potential energy to and from a mechanical system, creating a repetitive action that can be harnessed for the efficient transmission of significant power to perform real actionable work. The upper terminal of Tesla's magnifying transmitter, often seen as a mysterious component, actually plays a significant role in the system's efficiency. Think of it as a large capacitor or a reservoir for electrical charges to be stored into. When the system is activated, charges surge upwards into this terminal, similar to how air fills up a balloon in our previous analogy. Instead of letting these charges dissipate into the atmosphere through arcing or other wasteful processes, the upper terminal conserves them, allowing them to bounce back towards the ground. It's akin to the return discharging of air in our balloon analogy after the enlarged second balloon releases its air back through the hose after the squeezed balloon is released. The charges reverse their course and flow back the way they came, oscillating one completing cycle. This is how the upper terminal acts like a spring in its function as a giant capacitor and charge reservoir. It conserves and recycles the system's potential energy rather than losing it. By eliminating arcing from the upper terminal and reducing electromagnetic radiation, Tesla made a significant leap in the transmitter's efficiency and capability of converting the input energy into electrical energy conducted into the ground. In other words, having an upper terminal that's arcing off into the air would be analogous to the balloons having holes in them, losing potential energy as the air rushes out each time the balloons fill up. This dampens the power signal bounced back into the ground. In a similar vein, when the frequency of squeezing the balloons increases, there are eventual losses from the rapid back and forth movement of air surrounding the balloons. The acoustic waves produced by the balloon's surface can be likened to a damping of the power signal. Applying this to Tesla's magnifying transmitter, as the frequency escalates, more oscillating electromagnetic EM energy dissipates into the air from the upper terminal. This results in analogous damping of the input power signal in intended for conduction into the ground. Tesla himself even stated that the magnifying transmitter, if so desired, could be designed to emit 95% of the input energy from the upper terminal as EM radiation and direct only 5% as currents into the ground. Though he explicitly claimed this to be the naive struggles of the radio men.
You can't pack sufficient energy in your radio wave to do anything we need to do mechanically.
Conversely, Tesla explained that his more favorable approach was to design it to emit only 5% of the input as EM radiation and therefore channel the remaining 95% of the input into UHVAC straight into the ground. Serendipitously, this demonstrates the transmitter's dual capability: wireless radio wave communication through the air in addition to non-interference mechanisms for the in-ground power signal transmission and transmitting information frequency bandwidths. This also clears a common misconception that the return for the circuit is through the air. The function of the upper terminal in conserving and discharging the charges back into the ground effectively dispels this notion. This action can be seen as being analogous to an oscillating mass on a spring, but for the electrical charges. The concept of the upper terminal in Tesla's wireless power transmission system can be analogized with the operation of a Helmholtz resonator in acoustics. Just as a Helmholtz resonator, commonly found in automobile muffler systems, interacts with acoustic waves by damping out specific frequencies while allowing others to pass through, Tesla's upper terminal does something analogous. It acts as a reservoir resonator for electrical charges, carefully tuned to respond to certain frequencies. The tuning of Tesla's wireless receiver, specifically the capacitance of the upper terminal and the inductance of the secondary coil, is crucial for its proper functioning. These components create a resonant circuit that determines which power signal frequencies will be allowed through and which will be filtered out. Just as in an acoustic system, where the resonator permits only a specific frequency to resonate, in Tesla's design, only the electrical frequencies that match the resonant frequency of the receiver's circuit will be allowed to pass through the secondary coil, causing a movement of charges oscillating within the circuit. All other frequencies will be filtered out, effectively preventing them from inducing a current in the secondary coil. The upper terminal and secondary coil's CL resonant circuit must be tuned appropriately to absorb the back and forth movement of the charges at the transmitted frequency, so that it minimizes any damping of the wave and hence conserving energy. This conservation is crucial, as any deviation from the tuned frequency would result in energy losses. The core of this idea is that unless the receiver is tuned precisely to the transmitting frequency, it won't receive power efficiently.
But that's not what Tesla was referring to. He was talking about moving radio waves. So then I thought, out of respect for him, what I should do is give him my most informed critical analysis that I can. In my field, you come up with an idea. But that's not what Tesla was referring to. He was talking about moving radio waves. You present it either at a conference or you...
Hello.
Joe.
What's going on, man?
Man, to your colleagues. It is their duty to alert you of things about your ideas that are either misguided or wrong. But that's not what Tesla was referring to. He was talking about moving radio waves. That's their job. Not all ideas will turn out to be correct. Most won't be. But his contributions to electromagnetism are real and recognized in the world of physics. He was talking about moving radio waves. But to get to that point, you need to know things like...
Contrary to popular misconception, Nikola Tesla's actual wireless transmission system did not rely on transmitting energy through the air using
feelings here. It's about objective reality.
So I don't want to assume anything nefarious, but did you just not read his papers?
In fact, I haven't. This fact undermines your claims and assumptions and conclusions. That's how science works.
Again, if I haven't been inordinately clear here, I'm not suggesting for anyone to do anything about anyone doing anything. Maybe let's build the pyramid. Let's build the pyramid. Let's build some fun, cool mass dampers and vibration Helmholtz resonators to protect our people and the ground and the earth. That's it. Inordinately clear. I want no malice towards anyone. None. I want peace. I want everyone to get along. Let's fix this garden.
I feel like we have a good jumping off point.
Okay, the circumference of the Earth could be enough.
Oh, honestly?
You want this in kilometers or miles?
Fuck if I care.
24,901 miles.
Let's do some investigative journalism. Well, we gotta write this down. You can post it or, something. Stick that up there. Stick that up there. We're just gathering evidence right now. We're gathering evidence.
We're just asking questions. We're just looking around. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. We can see the difference in structure here. We could have some sort of pyramid cap on it, which is likely made of different material that suits my interest.
Let me ask you this. If you were to place an antenna anywhere in a pyramid.
I mean, being a rational kind of guy, I'd put it at the highest point.
What's the highest point of a pyramid?
But that's not what Tesla was referring to.
I mean, being a rational kind of guy, I'd put it at the highest point.
So then I thought, out of respect for him, what I should do is give him my most informed critical analysis that I can. In my field, you come up with an idea. But that's not what Tesla was referring to. He was talking about moving radio waves. You present it either at a conference or you...
About pseudo-archaeology and pseudoscience a lot, because God knows these videos are a dime a dozen. Pseudoscience pipeline that the algorithm of these apps literally encourages.
Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely. Honestly,
this argument hinges on what kind of crack Lilo smoking. These are Lilo psychologist believes that
our culture does not demand pyramid.
What's going on, man?
Honestly, I don't want to silence because it's fucking job security. The nice thing about what I do for a living is that as long as there is stupid people, I can pay my fucking mortgage.
Butterfly effect be crazy. Anyway,
come on.
That's lame, dude.
To your colleagues, it is their duty to alert you of things about your ideas that are either misguided or wrong. But that's not what Tesla was referring to. He was talking about moving radio waves.
Let me ask you this. If you were to place an antenna anywhere in a pyramid.
I mean, being a rational kind of guy, I'd put it at the highest point.
And what's the highest point of a pyramid?
Their job. Not all ideas will turn out to be correct. Most won't be.
I mean, being a rational kind of guy, I'd put it at the highest point.
Let's talk about moving radio waves. But to get to that point, you need to know things like...
Contrary to popular misconception, Nikola Tesla's actual wireless transmission system did not rely on transmitting energy through the air using...
feelings here. It's about objective reality.
So I don't want to assume anything nefarious, but did you just
butterfly effect be crazy? Anyway,
come on.
That's lame, dude.
This fact undermines your claims and assumptions and conclusions. That's how science works. Everyone is thinking he's got the solution to the future transmission of energy. No, he doesn't. His statement is shown to be false. Just because you do some good stuff doesn't mean everything you ever did is going to be great. What can happen if you're a fan of a subject, let's say, an expert,
TikTok conspiracy shills talking about archaeology,
let's call it, it's possible to know enough about that subject to think you're right, but not enough about that subject to know that you're wrong.
Being a rational kind of guy, I'd put it at the highest point.
He was talking about moving radio waves. To become an expert, you can't just sit in an armchair and say,
I mean, being a rational kind of guy, I'd put it at the highest point.
He was talking about moving radio waves. It requires looking through journals. That's what we have learned is the most effective means of establishing that which is objectively true.
Nikola Tesla's actual wireless transmission system did not rely on transmitting energy through the air using
radio waves.
Instead, he proposed a system that leveraged the natural conductive properties of the Earth.
I'm going to read you just my opening line here.
Okay, you smug son of a bitch, because Google told them. Whoa, Milo, but you're coming down on him. You're trying to silence him. It's wrong, like a bunch of fucking nerds. Maybe you should have Googled it, and then you wouldn't have had to make a video where he just puts on this persona of being like the smug, cold, hard fact kind of guy. Frankly, I think this part that he's putting forward online is kind of a douche. So it's like, we're really gonna trigger some people today, but you kind of get the character that we're working with here. No, I'm not trying to silence Milo. I'm literally just trying to do his own
physics
research for him. And so because he's gaining his
physics
input from Ancient Apocalypse, then Graham Hancock on Joe Rogan, two people who do a terrible job of representing
wave mechanics,
he thinks he knows what
physics
stands for, which is absolute bullshit. And I want to make clear that the difference between studying
harmonics and resonances of a guitar string and any other vibrating object
whole life and what these people are doing is that Milo speaking like they are an authority figure, like they know better than us. Now, I actually do have some pretty immense respect for Milo, but fully disagree with the things that he's saying. The reason we haven't built any pyramids is we have no purpose for them anymore. I do appreciate the fact that he can actually try and postulate his theories. I mean, being a rational kind of guy, I'd put it at the highest point. And, actually try and back them up with evidence. I don't think his evidence is very good, but at least he's engaging in the scientific method, But you kind of miss out on all the nuance, and instead all you get is like a frat bro, gatekeeper of archaeology. You can be as interested in archaeology as you want, but don't fucking talk about
physics.
You kind of just end up looking like a goober. And now we put it all together. Here's Philo, both smug and wrong.
So first, we know that there's obviously a connection between the lines of the... Okay, that's a little suspicious. That is a very suspicious looking number.
Isn't it the third thing list on this list? But I bet you have to do that too high. Actually, yeah.
Hold on. What's the height?
Okay.
Walk me through this. Look, no one said doing this was easy. Okay, it's thankless work. It's thankless work.
If this was easy, people would be doing this just like out there willy-nilly, no effort required, just because it's easy. Because it's right.
This is also where you can tell that archaeology has no background in
basic wave mechanics and physics.
And just, we can take a little step outside. Reignite the brain
Creative
juices.
spirit.
I do, I feel like, I don't know, a little fresh air would help.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. I think I rest my case. I do think it's very funny though, watching archaeology clearly have one source for all of their information. Just listen to Graham Hancock once. Graham Hancock said,
I think that the aliens that built the pyramids would have used the speed of light.
And then just, you know, parroting.
Riddle me this. The entire fucking universe used the metric system. The aliens that built the pyramids would have used something else as the coordinates of Giza. I thought I would talk about it and all of its faults.
That one over and over again, and clearly not doing any more digging into any
physics, basic wave mechanics, harmonics and resonances of a guitar string and any other vibrating object.
Does Graham Hancock look like a fucking
physicist
to you? No, it doesn't. I know, and clearly not doing any more digging into any particular topic.
Oh, what a surprise.
Just ridiculous. I don't want to silence it's fucking job security. The nice thing about what I do for a living is that as long as there is stupid people, I can pay my fucking mortgage.
Got it.
Not true.
I know Graham Hancock said
physics. Absolutely wrong. Milo.
Did you do your own research or did you just accoutrement to the tip?
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
gets the people going.
It's disgusting.
Butterfly effect, be crazy. Anyway.
Come on.
That's lame, dude.
I looked at them, you know, and I thought, oh, what a beautiful thing, because
I was thinking, if Tesla's system of communicating and sending electricity and power through the earth definitely works, I'm pretty sure it's being used. And JP Morgan's whole intention was to use it for trading. This system going through the earth would always have faster communications for trade than anyone stuck on a slow EM type transmission system that has to go circumferentially around the earth. Did JP Morgan get exactly what he paid for? And nobody found out about it? And they used it for trading this whole time? So they could have faster trade communications through the earth? I don't even know the ramifications of that. I'm pretty sure that, like, logically, we can assume this is what happened. So is the myth about Tesla failing and JP Morgan being pissed and going by the wayside just that? A charade? So that they could tell everyone else, oh yeah, you get to just use EM. Don't mind us, we just always happen to make better trades than everyone.
Strong, incredible. It's not even, believe it or not, it's not even a difficult thing to do. And by the way, for the people of the southern border, please do something. And the kids are getting stuck, and other people are getting stuck. We're going to end it. We're going to end it. We're going to end it at the southern border. It's going to be over. First thing, always, that they mention to me, Mr. Trump, because there's so much of it all over our country. Mr. Trump, please do something. Tremendous.
Did you share classified information about a nuclear weapons system with Woodward? What were you talking about when you talked about that?
I wouldn't believe it. You see this place and you say it's so beautiful. We have great weaponry. No, I'm not talking about classified. I'm talking about what we build. We're building great weaponry. We have a tremendous. Our military is stronger and now than it's ever been. We're going to work really hard to get those on our military over the last 3.5 years. And we now have new rockets and missiles, and frankly, our nuclear, we have to hope to God we never have to use it. But our nuclear now is in the best shape it's been in decades. It's going to work with you people to help you solve that very big problem, knows about, and we'll get it done.
And we have some systems that nobody knows about. And it's not a freaking coincidence that John G. Trump was the one who went through all of Tesla's files for the Office of Alien Property, and in these exact papers, he specifically says that Tesla's ground transmission system cannot work. But then we find all of the golf resorts of the Trump family at key locations away from the Trump Tower.
And really, it was to study Skinwalker Ranch. Oddly enough, that 22 million all was inspired by the phenomenon they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch, because the scientists, they're seeing vehicles come through like a space in the sky.
Yeah, we went there.
If you look, I spent a lot of time in the area. I'm not talking about those stories. I'm saying there were scientists hired by the government, right, through Bigelow to study the ranch because they thought it was important. This document is just one of those things that has now come forward that through the Bigelow studies, it was government funded, and then it was personally funded and then government funded.
Systems that nobody knows about. And just working on my turbine here. Wanted to tell you a little something I've been thinking about right now. If someone makes a patent and they come up with an idea, and that idea is a risk to national security, it's dangerous, it could risk lives, the government would inevitably come along and say, hey, you can't patent this, we need to keep this secret. They take the patent from you, right? Well, the government takes a patent from you, and I don't know the exact laws for it off the top of my head, but I know these exist. If someone does know these off the top of their head, or can actually just tell me, please put them down in the comments. But let's just say, the government does take your patent and you can't commercialize your patent, and or you can't even sell it to the military, or the military uses it for war purposes or whatever. I bet you add up damages for not being able to commercialize your idea. In that case, when you receive damages, after the government takes your patent, after enough time, you're allowed to sue for damages from the government, and you can get paid by the government this way. If they stole Tesla's patents and they knew that they were secret and confidential stuff that would be war information, and then went and patented them in their own names or their children's names so they could have them for the longest amount of time, as long as the military keeps them secret, they can indefinitely sue our government for damages for not being able to commercialize these patents. Damages from not being able to commercialize someone else's patent.
We had a lot of papers stacked up. In fact, you could hear the rustle of the paper.
And if they're running around trying to make sure no one knows about this stuff, they're trying to make sure it's kept secret, kept confidential, even though it works, telling everyone that it can't work, or some farcical stuff, or claiming these things aren't capable, or everything you've heard under the sun about why Tesla's stuff doesn't work, that is literally has nothing to do with how he even claimed the system was to work. Are they keeping it secret so that they can keep it confidential, so that they can continue suing our government for damages, so that they get an infinite federal funded trust fund slush pit from damages of not being able to commercialize on patents that they're intentionally keeping confidential for the sake of profiting off of its damages they're receiving from not commercializing it because it's confidential? I don't know. I just make turbines.
And you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting? And nobody said anything.
I leave home for a few days and look what happens. This won't take long.
This is Professor Enda Science, and today I want to discuss spherical harmonics on rigorous quantum mechanics.
And how the math is a direct analog for the vibrational modes of the spherical Earth. And why it's so important to all the rest of my research. And hey, let's check out Coral Castle!
Spherical harmonics are the eigenfunctions of orbital angular momentum in quantum mechanics. As such, they feature in many problems, but most importantly, they feature in the hydrogen atom. We're going to dissect the mathematical form of the first few spherical harmonics. We're also going to visualize them. We also have a link in the description to a Jupyter notebook, which has some Python code to generate the spherical harmonics. So I encourage you to take a look and see what it does. The main reason why we study spherical harmonics is that they play a central role in the theory of orbital angular momentum in quantum mechanics.
The spectrum of the vibrating string consists of multiples of the fundamental frequency f0. These specific modes of vibration can be classified according to the number of nodes. Let us consider the simplest mode of vibration having two open ends. It has one node in the middle and one antinode per each of the two edges. Let us now bend this vibration to form a semicircle. Rotating this semicircle around the z-axis will result in a sphere. There is an azimuthal nodal line at the equator of the vibrating sphere. We can perform the same steps for the following resonant frequency, which has two nodes. Let us bend the vibration to a semicircle and again let the semicircle rotate around the z-axis. This results in a vibrating sphere having two azimuthal nodal lines. We can repeat this on and on. Bending and rotating the vibration with L nodes results in a vibrating sphere with L nodal lines. By definition, these sphere vibrations are rotationally symmetric. They are also their own reflection. Positioning the mirror plane exactly in the middle will result in an identical mirror image. L specifies the total number of azimuthal nodal lines. There is no nodal line for L equals 0. There is one nodal line for L equals 1. However, this exceptionally symmetrical vibration does not reveal the full range of possibilities, because we can also rotate the nodal line on the sphere. Let's rotate that nodal line to the right, or reflect it to the left. There are now two new modes of vibration on the spherical surface with one nodal line. Those are vibrations with an azimuthal nodal line that is rotating clockwise or anti-clockwise. In the case of two nodal lines, there is an option to rotate not just one, but both nodal lines to the right and reflect their image to the left. In the case of three nodal lines, we can rotate first one line, then two, then all three nodal lines to the right, and reflect their image to the left. There are thus 2L plus 1 potential modes of vibration on the spherical surface with L nodal lines. We can generate any number of basic modes on the two-dimensional spherical surface by adding and rotating nodal lines, starting from the simplest vibration.
Why it's so important to all the rest of my research, and hey, let's check out Coral Castle!
This is the eigenvalue equation for the squared angular momentum, and this is the eigenvalue equation for the z component of orbital angular momentum. The L squared eigenvalues are labelled by the quantum number L, and it can only take non-negative integer values, and the Lz eigenvalues are labelled by the quantum number M, and for a given L, M can only take one of the values minus L plus 1, and so on, all the way to L. However, today's focus is not on the eigenvalues, but instead on the eigenstates that are shared by both L squared and Lz here and here. These eigenstates are the so-called spherical harmonics. We can write the spherical harmonic YLM of theta phi as equal to this long prefactor multiplied by a phase factor, and then this other long expression involving sines and cosines. Then we can write the spherical harmonic YLM as equal to this long prefactor multiplied by the phase factor, and everything multiplied by a function PLM of the cosine. These functions P here are called the associated Legendre polynomials. But today we are not going to explore them any further, so if you're interested in learning more about them, I encourage you to check them out elsewhere. The visualization of spherical harmonics is something that you will often encounter because spherical harmonics feature in a variety of quantum systems, most importantly the hydrogen atom. We first need to note that the spherical harmonics depend on the two angular variables theta and phi. Let's consider a general point here, at a position given by the vector r from the origin. And in spherical coordinates, we describe the position of this point with a set of 3 numbers. The distance between the origin and the point, r, the angle between the vector r and the third axis, theta, and the third is built by first projecting the vector r onto the horizontal plane, measuring its angle with respect to the first axis, and we call it phi. R is the length of a vector. It can only be 0 or positive. The angle theta runs from 0 to pi, and the angle phi from 0 to 2 pi. Now this here is an example of how we will plot the spherical harmonics. And now all that matters is how we are representing it. We're not going to plot the coordinate axes in general, but for now, there are these 3 here, and they should help you as a reference. The color shows the value of the function. Red regions show the angular positions where the function takes large positive values, and the blue regions show the angular positions where the function takes large negative values. For intermediate values, we plot the function with a color scale that goes from positive red to negative blue through 0, which is white. In this particular example, both the North Pole here and the South Pole hidden behind here are both white, which means that the function is 0 at those positions. And in fact, the function is 0 along a whole great circle that unites the 2 poles. And to understand these plots better, we will often rotate the coordinate axes like this, allowing us to see the value of the spherical harmonic in all angular directions. The spherical harmonics are labeled by the quantum numbers L and n. As L is associated with the magnitude of orbital angular momentum, we will use this as the main quantum number from which to build the spherical harmonics. So let's start with L equals 0. This implies that m is also 0. The corresponding spherical harmonic is therefore... So overall, the spherical harmonic y00 is equal to the constant 1 over square root of 4 pi. This here is a plot of the y00 spherical harmonic. It's trivially a solid uniformly red sphere. The color is uniform because the function is a constant. Let's now consider L equals 1. There are 3 possible values of m, -1, 0, and 1. So let's start with n equals 1 and n equals -1. Start with a prefactor here. We can write it down inserting comes -2 sine theta. The spherical harmonic y1 1 is given by this prefactor, this phase factor, and all multiplied by sine theta. We'll also separate this expression into its real part and its imaginary part. These plots show the y1 1 spherical harmonic. The top diagram shows the real part, while the bottom diagram shows the imaginary part. So let's start with the real part, which is given by this term up here. Remember that the angle along the horizontal plane is measured by phi, and that phi runs from 0 to 2 pi. We see that the phi dependence is fully captured by this cosine term. For the phi dependence, the real part of the y1 1 spherical harmonic exhibits a full cosine oscillation from positive to negative and back to positive, and pictorially we get red, white, blue, white, and back to red. Here we see that the theta dependence is fully captured by this sine term. We can finally make these diagrams rotate to appreciate the full angular dependence. It's not the easiest to get your head around this type of plot, so I recommend that you take your time until it becomes completely clear. Let's now look at L equals 1 and m equals 0. We have the spherical harmonic y10. We get the prefactor square root of 3 over 4 pi times the cosine of theta. This here is a plot of the y10 spherical harmonic. We see that y10 does not depend on the angular variable phi, which implies that the spherical harmonic looks the same in all directions within the horizontal plane. y10 does depend on theta through this cosine function. At the North Pole, where theta is 0, the cosine takes the maximum value, hence the red color. Then on the horizontal plane, corresponding to theta equals pi over 2, the cosine vanishes. This is indicated by the white band. At the South Pole, where theta is pi, the cosine takes its maximum negative value. We get the blue color. Again, as there is no phi dependence, these results are true along any phi direction. Do spend as long as you need to really make sure that this plot makes sense. Finally, let's look at L equals 1 and n equals 1. y11. We get this prefactor, this phase factor, and all multiplied by sine theta. We can separate this expression into a real part and imaginary part. This here is a plot of the y11 spherical harmonic. The expression is really quite similar to spherical harmonic y1 1. This means that the only difference in the plots is that the real part is the negative of the real part of the y1 1 spherical harmonic. That one we had red in front and blue at the back, whereas here we have blue in the front and red at the back. We can again make them rotate to better appreciate the full angular dependence. As a summary, we have here the 3 spherical harmonics. It's not really trivial to get your head around these plots, so again, do take as long as you need to make sure that you are absolutely happy with the plotting. So let's next consider L equals 2. For this value of L, there are 5 possible values of n. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. The mathematical form of the spherical harmonics is analogous to that of the previous 2 examples. These here are the 5 spherical harmonics for L equals 2. But to fully appreciate their angular dependence, we can also make them rotate about the vertical axis, starting with y2 -2, then y2 -1, y2 0 doesn't have the phi dependence, so it looks the same at any angle about the vertical axis, and we can also make y2 1 rotate, and finally y2 2. We could, of course, go on and plot additional spherical harmonics. Here I have the L equals 3 spherical harmonics. We can again make them rotate for better visualization, starting with y3 minus 3, then y3 minus 2, y3 minus 1. Again, the y30 spherical harmonic is purely real and doesn't depend on phi, so zonal directions. Moving to y31, we can again make it rotate. The same for y32. And finally for y33. We've generated all of these figures using Python, and you can have a go yourself plotting spherical harmonics by following the link to the Jupyter notebook in the description. Overall, I hope you will agree that these diagrams have a rather captivating beauty about them. To finish, I just want to point out that you will encounter spherical harmonics depicted in a variety of ways. I personally think that the approach that we've taken today is particularly clear because it really highlights the angular dependence of the spherical harmonics by plotting them on the unit sphere. We show this alternative approach in the bottom row.
There. That should give us enough.
Okay, this is getting a little ridiculous now. This guy, he wants to know if I'm schizophrenic explaining basic wave mechanics, harmonics and resonances of a guitar string and any other vibrating object. Like, this kind of ableism is not okay. I'm not sure why some of you people think this is okay. I have autism. Throwing around ableism slurs like calling me schizophrenic is not acceptable. You need to understand that. I have a degree in physics, and I know what I'm talking about here. This is basic wave mechanics, and he doesn't understand pulse phased arrays. He doesn't understand this, but he thinks he's going to come around and call me schizophrenic because of it. This isn't appropriate. Anyone who's watching my stuff, this is inappropriate. And like, I'm not even telling you to take my word for it here. Like, there was an actual earthquake from a Taylor Swift concert from a bunch of people jumping up and down on a single location, putting vibrations into the ground. This is not impossible, nor should you be calling me schizophrenic for basic wave mechanics and physics. I don't know how to make this any simpler. Don't make an exhibit of your willful ignorance by refusing to look at the many peer-reviewed papers I have backing up my claims. Don't make an exhibit of your ignorance, because I will if you let me. Womp womp.
Seismic waves that were released from the fans jumping up and down actually reached as far as the Dublin Mountains and even further in Wexford. That was created during Shake It Off, which was really surprising. My name is Eleanor Dunn and I was involved in recording the seismic activity for the Taylor Swift concerts, but I'm also a massive Swiftie. I decided to place some seismometers around the Aviva Stadium.
Eleanor digging a hole.
This was inspired by some seismic activity that was generated when Taylor Swift performed in Seattle last year. So we put 21 seismometers around in people's gardens and in businesses, and we recorded the concerts to see if we would see any interesting activity that was generated. So the results were really good. There was a lot of seismic activity that radiated out from the concerts, and we actually saw that seismometers that were part of the Irish National Seismic Network, which were as far away as 14 kilometres, and then also over 100 kilometres in Wexford, actually also recorded signals from Shake It Off, which was really surprising but really good to see. Swifties have been really engaged and really excited about this research, which is great to see. I've been asking for them to send in videos from inside the stadium so we can see what was going on. So the plan is to collaborate with other institutions, so it would be great to compare our results and see if there is a difference between country, between venue, between how many fans are in the stadium, everything like that. It could really mean some really big results in terms of the field of seismology.
I'm going to briefly explain Nikola Tesla's idea for keeping a wireless thumb on ships at sea. It's an idea of his that sets up a global resonant grid that can be utilized for measuring any ship's location anywhere. Have the Earth, and you're going to put a transmitter on top and a transmitter at the equator. Other transmitter polar opposite. If this transmitter sends out wave pulses going around the world this way, if the wave frequency or wavelength is resonant to the polar circumference of the Earth, it will set up standing waves across the whole globe going north to south. Then if you have a pyramid on the equator, similarly sends waves this way, it'll set up a longitude and latitude grid of standing waves going this way and standing waves going this way. Because the polar circumference is smaller than the equatorial circumference, the polar circumference equals the equatorial circumference equals the grid that comes across here. Any ship, water blue, some creativeness going here. I don't know what the heck that was, but that's the sail. That's me on there, who doesn't know how to sail. Let's say we have a Tesla coil on the ship. If we put a small Tesla coil on the ship that's connected into the water anywhere on the earth, let's say longitude and latitude, whatever this coil up here is tuned to, the plate capacitor here, L1, L2, C2, C1. The specific chosen L2, C2 will determine what frequencies this coil resonates at and what will allow signals to go up, just like an acoustic Helmholtz resonator does. Because of the inductance and the specific capacitance, certain frequencies will resonate with it and have easy passage up into the collector. Fill up with charges around the top. No, that one doesn't work. Yeah, fill up with charges at the top and then go back down and then come back up. So the charges will oscillate up and down in the Tesla coil on the ship, and depending on where you're at on the Earth, you will have a different amplitude or wave packet, or depending on the characteristics of these chosen waves, this coil will resonate to the combination of the two waves in a very specific way to wherever it is on the planet. Additionally, different wave packets can be sent out such that you can encode information in there so that wherever you're at, the way that wave packet's either expanded or contracted, depending on where it is in amplitude around the Earth, you can determine your location on the Earth anywhere by correlating this coil. I'm oversimplifying it right now to make it clear and understandable, but there's a little more complicated equations to solving this and making it so that you can actually use it. Another way is to have multiple coils on the ship spread a specific distance apart, and the signal's resonant to this one versus this one. The amplitude of this gives you different positions for everywhere or at different places around on the ship. This was to do this all electrically. However, if there's a really big important thing about which waves put in the ground, because the wavelengths of said waves put in the ground will dictate the potential step voltage dangers. If you're not familiar with what step voltage potential is, it's similar to when a down power line is hitting the ground and the really high voltage but not quite high enough voltage is high enough that the resistance of the ground is high enough that the voltage drop over any short distance is so high that if you're walking along that path, the voltage between your front and back foot is high enough that it'll short circuit through our conductive water body instead of the short path through the high resistance ground. That step voltage can kill you. Trick most people don't know is that if you are near down power line, you're either supposed to like slowly shuffle your feet really short, or you hop. Don't hop too far, because if you fall and land across it, your body will be shorting out like that. Why this is important now. This is a big moment. It was kind of really clicked to me. And this might actually be proof to how long back in time this technology has been used by humans. So the smaller the wavelength, if you're using this system for wavelengths in the ground, if the wavelength gets too short, where you have a high voltage to a low voltage between your front and back foot, the longer the gait of any animal, the sooner or more likely they are to get hit by these stray voltages. Why this is important is, I'm pretty sure this explains just about every single cow mutilation there is out there. Because I think they've been testing this system going through the ground, and have either been doing like out at Skinwalker Ranch where they put a bunch of cattle in a pen and they call it the bait pen. They were doing target practice with this weaponry because you can basically cause heart attacks on anyone anywhere you want. The floor is lava. And by doing so, they were inadvertently sending out stray currents, and I'm sure they probably hit some cows they weren't meaning to hit. And as such, they had to go out there and dissect any part of the cows that would give way to any electric currents or any electric arcs or any electric burns or any damage to the body from electric arcs. And why that's important is you would cut the front of the face off because the tip of the tongue, the nose, would be the wet spot where electrons will come out. The ears, the genitals, and the tail, all of which are generally, I believe, are talked about being removed in these mutilations. I'm not going to go any further than that because I know there's a bunch of woo-woo about it, but I'm pretty sure this is a pretty simple explanation for all of these, especially if you go look into the history behind all this. It does seem to be a bunch of cover-up for a bunch of other stuff, and you can't really tell, and they say it's always natural. But I do find it interesting that the thing that's removed from all of the body parts are all things that would be the thing you would find electric burns from, or burns on it from electric currents. And any normal veterinarian would be able to diagnose electric burns. But so, we can't explain what happened to all the mammoths. They would have the biggest gait on this continent. I don't really know of any other animal that has as big of a gait as a mammoth. We think it's been about 10,000 years. If they were using this technology and they started using waves too small, it would have electrocuted all the mammoths. They would have all died. But everything with a shorter leg gait would stay around. I don't know. It's just, it just makes me think. Naturally speaking, if these wavelengths were going through the ground and some man-made objects or man-made things were doing it or causing it, it would cause electrocution of animals whose gait is long enough to receive that electrocution. We know what happens with cows. We know what happens with us. Why wouldn't it happen with larger animals? And could that explain why there are no animals left on the continent that have that large of a gait? So the whole time editing this film, I'm just like, well, why the moose? Why did the moose not? Why would the moose stay? They have horns. They're antlers. It might have been a specific arc point that was sharper than anywhere else on their body that if they ever did get electrical potentials going through their body, would come out the antlers. That was a thought. The one hole in this I do think is why the moose? Other than it looks like moose never came below where the snow was also. So if they're walking around on the snow, it might have been an extra layer of insulation between them and anything in the ground. Oh boy, it looks like we finally got a response from Milo. Let's take a look at this.
Here's the score, dude. For the last 5 months or more, you have been tagging me in posts and comments incessantly. So incessantly, in fact, that I have had to restrict all tags on my account since my whole tagged feed was clogged in just your videos. Maybe to you this comes across as dedication, but to me it comes across as hounding and incredibly frustrating and frankly rude. I am capable of doing only so many projects at once and have to carefully pick what I want to dedicate my time to. Repeatedly tagging me in videos and comments does not make you entitled to my time and attention. You have made no attempts to contact me professionally via email to discuss a pitch, project, or even make a real introduction.
Why don't we extrapolate your logic here a little bit? I'm going to be upfront with you. That's kind of a self-read right there. Piece of evidence number 36 that has no background in other things we actually need.
Milo, it is your prerogative to choose to believe whatever you want to pick and choose to believe, but it simply does not make it true. You need to check your DMs, because I have been sending you messages for months. And I have exchanged multiple comments with you that you then ghosted on after messaging me about. Stop feigning like I haven't tried numerous ways to get in contact with you. Never mind, email is not the only official way to get a hold of someone, no less. Especially with someone who had already acknowledged receiving my messages through Instagram first. That one would presume that the continued way to communicate with each other would be that way that you started communicating with me until you expressed some sort of preference otherwise. In no shape, way, or form, in any of the handful of messages that you responded back to me with, did you indicate that you preferred me to reach out to you through email. That would have been an intricate and key thing to say if you were actually concerned about making sure information that you spread is true. If I was so incessantly trying to get a hold of you, do you think I wouldn't have emailed you if I thought I could have gotten a hold of you? You messaged me back. You said you were busy. Then you spent 5 months dicking off, and then I watch you making content after content. And Graham Hancock, so important, it was worth your time to go out and make a video about it. You already acknowledged my comments. To then further email you while I was waiting for you to get back would be hounding you. Do you think I wouldn't have emailed you? You know what, Milo? Maybe you should have been the one to email me with a pitch for your video so that you can address the things you said. It is not my responsibility to email you to correct you on your things. I will make content about you because guess what? I'm not the one who is making the false statements. If you would like to give a response in this, I would happily work with you. You're the one making the false comments, not me. You're the one who acknowledged I was trying to get a hold of you for 5 months and just ignored everything I sent you. You need to stop lying now because this is embarrassing. Calling you out for fraud and sharing false information, something that you pretty much only do as a creator anymore, is not hounding you, is not rude. I really cannot believe this is your response. Honestly, this is just another testament to just how willing you are to stretch reality, to not have to take any sort of accountability with what you put out onto the internet and what you are sharing with people. And as someone who likes to not just metaphorically lecture people on this, who literally lectures on pseudoscience, you, sir, are a piece of work. The audacity that you have to do to other creators what you do, to turn around and somehow act like this when someone is rightfully calling you out for the lies and false information that you spread.
Wah! How's it going, everybody? My team and I are currently neck deep in trying to edit this Philip Zeba video. I thought it was going to be about 2 hours long. It's currently almost 4. So as that, we decided we're going to keep our heads down, keep working on it. To keep the post schedule going, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to release a video that I think all of you will enjoy. I talk a lot about pseudoscience and pseudoarchaeology pretty much all the time, but I've never talked about pseudoarchaeology and pseudoscience as a concept. Why it's dangerous, why people kind of fall into it, and how it's a pipeline into much more dangerous ideologies. What you're about to see is a lecture that I gave at Virginia Tech back a couple months ago. I'd also like to give a big thanks to Virginia Tech for allowing me to speak there. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, enjoy. All right.
Frankly, no, I will not stop making videos about charlatans who are spreading false information on the internet.
Morty, don't break an arm jerking yourself off.
Playing around with Graham Hancock over there because you're so busy you have to pick and choose, but you could go out and do this.
When we got the camera rolling over on that side, I'm filming my first read-through of Graham Hancock's hit piece on me. And man, let me tell you, because I am in absolute stitches, I want to introduce you to chapter 2. Mini Minuteman is a pseudo-archaeologist. Talked about pseudoarchaeology and pseudoscience a lot, because God knows these videos are a dime a dozen.
Instead, it seems you feel short-form videos and public comments are sufficient tools for building a rapport with me personally.
What, dude, are my 15 to 30 minute long form videos not long enough for you?
Just, why would there be a pyramid in Antarctica?
I know something you don't know.
Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely fucking not. I'm so stoked about the UPS truck being here that I'm even going to talk about that pyramid anymore because frankly, it makes me want to,
God, this guy drives me fucking Google debunkers.
And secondly, holy shit, what the fuck? Honestly, that's kind of a powerful purpose for the pyramids. I thought you said, listen, buddy, you don't need any pyramids.
Buddy, dude, I was not trying to build a rapport with you. Not after 5 months of avoiding me and just ignoring any of the claims against you for spreading false information to millions of people. I was offering you a chance to save face, but you can choose to sit here and blame me for the repercussions of the work that you've put out, but I don't think that's gonna help you in any way, shape, or form. That's just my opinion, though. Did you really think me joking, come out to play, was me trying to be endearing to you? The fact that you even think that this was me trying to build a rapport with you is a bit indicative of how out of touch you are with yourself. And
I'm gonna be upfront with you. That's kind of a self-read right there.
And honestly, man, I love that you didn't address a single thing of any of the stuff I mentioned, or any of the reasons for why we're even talking to each other. No, you just came out and wrote a diatribe against me. Honestly, dude, first words utterance out of your mouth, make fun of the way I speak. You don't like what? How I spell dude? First things out of your mouth. You had enough time to write all this and attack me personally, but you couldn't address a single thing. Not one bit of physics. Just come out with a diatribe and outright gaslighting and scapegoating, shirking your responsibilities as an ethical content creator. The funny part is you claim it's been 5 months of you incessantly hounding me of messages, but you didn't get a hold of me. So that means you spent 5 months knowing I was trying to get a hold of you, and you just did what?
Warning, this video contains flashing lights, discussion of certain events, and cold hard facts. Sheep and people debunkers be warned. You are Dendera, you are mind blown. What is going on, Truth Seeker Nation? It's me, Milo Rizzi from the Uncast, and today I got a fucking truth bomb for you. So I thought to myself, well, I want to do a quick, easy video, a real crowd pleaser. Milo's the only people on TikTok who's not afraid to speak his mind. He spits nothing but cold hard opinions. And research, not a fucking lick of it. But from a podcast, we all know that there's nothing I respect more than a guy who's willing to say something even though it's not true. So I thought to myself, I'm gonna go Milo's entire channel. I'm going to meticulously compile all of his truth bombs so I can share them with you. And so that's exactly what I did. And oh my god, you people will not fucking imagine the things he says.
Nothing? Turn around and then claim I'm the bad guy here because you won't address the issues and the false information you're spreading on the internet.
But this video is gonna be long and raw. I don't want to silence because it's fucking job security. The nice thing about what I do for a living is that as long as there is stupid people, I can pay my fucking mortgage.
Got it.
Not true. So I thought to myself, well, this video's on the editing table. I want to do some research of my own. I decided to take a page out of Philo's book, and what I uncovered will blow your mind. So biddies and alpha males, I would love you guys back to this very special episode today. I'm gonna tell you the truth about the Bass Pro Shop pyramid.
So busy.
No, Graham Hancock said it.
Physics. Absolutely wrong. Milo.
Did you do your own research or did you just accoutrement to the tip?
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.
It's disgusting.
Butterfly effect, be crazy. Anyway,
Come on.
That's lame, dude. Just ridiculous.
But maybe you're right. Maybe I'm actually the deluded one here for thinking you were even a respectable scientist.
You kind of miss out on all the nuance, and instead all you get is like a frat bro, gatekeeper of archaeology. You can be as interested in archaeology as you want, but don't fucking talk about
physics.
You kind of just end up looking like a goober.
At least now I know you don't respect yourself enough to admit when you're wrong. To have a little bit of humility. Even Dr. Blitz made a public comment after my video about him, acknowledging what he got wrong, apologizing for the one thing he didn't even know was a thing that shouldn't be done, taking ownership of his actions, taking ownership of the information he put out. And guess what, Milo? We moved on like adults. Like this, I'm pretty sure there are textbooks written about scapegoatism exactly like this. I'm probably the idiot here because even until you sent that message, I still held out chance that, you know what, maybe he just got it wrong and like maybe it's just, sometimes it's just the way it is in certain fields and maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but nope, you just proved every single thing I had been told about you by thousands of people with this single message. And to turn around because you spent 5 months knowingly avoiding me. You just admitted you knew for 5 months. It was so incessant that you had to go stop tags on your thing. So you've known for 5 months. Let me be extraordinarily clear here. Milo, you deleting and covering up those tags I put in my posts that I call you out for the lies that you're making is not you proving I'm hounding you. It's you covering up the evidence of me showing you making and producing false information. This is explicitly you trying to hide that, not prove I was hounding you. First off, I tagged Joe Rogan and Neil deGrasse Tyson in just about every one of those posts too. They're not communications with you. I tagged you in the post. Milo, if there is a clip of you in one of my videos, I'm going to tag you in my video as that is the purpose of the tag feature, to tag other people who are in the content. I edited your footage and then I tag you in those videos. I also then tag you in the posts that I have of the peer-reviewed papers that I post, sharing the backed up information I have that prove all of the things I've been claiming and outright prove you wrong.
Gotta break them on something. Hell yeah.
and it's gotta be bumping. City of Compton.
It's where it takes place, so when that show attention, mobbing with the dog pound.
Wow, wow, wow.
Maybe address those. Maybe address the hundreds of posts I've made proving these things and proving you are spreading outright falsehoods and outlandish claims.
Jumping the funky tracks is making a set of just moments. When I'm on the mic, it's like a good day off from. Try to get close and you're bound to get smacked. My little homie Snoop Doggy's got my back. No.
Are you kidding me? Maybe you shouldn't have been shotgunning so many falsehoods onto the internet.
I'm so stoked about the UPS truck being here that I'm even going to talk about that pyramid anymore because frankly, it makes me want to,
God, this guy drives me fucking Google debunkers.
And secondly, holy shit, what the fuck? Honestly, that's kind of a powerful purpose for the pyramids. I thought you said, listen, buddy, you don't need any pyramids. I'm gonna bludgeon myself over the head with this bottle so I can be thinking on the same level as you.
To cash in on ad revenue.
I don't want to silence. It's fucking job security. The nice thing about what I do for a living is that as long as there is stupid people, I can pay my fucking mortgage.
Got it.
Not true.
Before you got to a place where you couldn't keep up with putting out your own fire. Yeah, that's totally my doing. I totally caused this upon you.
All that said, I formally retract any discussion of collaboration together and politely request that you stop tagging me in all future posts. Please take this advice to heart for any other creators you may wish to work with in the future and wish you the best.
Buddy. Even the massive collab we did with Integza, the entire thing was initiated, conducted through DMs on Instagram. In fact, I actually first got a hold of him on a comment in one of his videos. He commented back with me, and then we DM'd each other. And that went on up until the point where we then went and communicated personally between each other on Signal. Stop acting like you avoiding me for 5 months is somehow me not going out of my way to find numerous ways to contact you and get a hold of you.
So, this is Charlie, and what makes him special enough for me to make a video about him is the fact that he built this weird turbine.
You're a TikTok creator, for God's sakes. You're not a fucking movie star, buddy. Get back down here on the earth with the rest of us mortals. Sorry, I don't make 3-hour-long videos of just me vomiting nonsense like you do.
Do a quick, easy video, a real crowd pleaser. I thought it was gonna be about 2 hours long. It's currently almost 4. So because of that, we decided I don't want to silence. It's fucking job security. The nice thing about what I do for a living is that as long as there is stupid people, I can pay my fucking mortgage.
Got it.
Not true.
Ball's in your court, Milo.
You can be as interested in archaeology as you want, but don't fucking talk about
physics.
You kind of just end up looking like a goober, and now we put it all together.
I'd like to introduce you to Fidel. He is a physicist, apparently getting a master's degree or apparently getting his PhD degree. When he is met with physics that he doesn't believe or understand, he likes to hurl ableist slurs around. This is absolutely inappropriate behavior. I'm going to show you step by step the things he likes to do when met with physics that he doesn't understand, as well as the way he likes to attack people when met with physics he doesn't understand. I want to preface this with, I'm not doing this out of revenge or any sort of emotional reason. I'm doing this to show you guys the blatant step-by-step fashion that people like to dismiss other people's ideas with, especially people who think they know what they're talking about, but are just blinded by their own arrogance. Let's take a look at what Fidel likes to do here. I still took it upon myself to share the actual background information I have for my research with Fidel here, and he chose to just refuse to look at it. Now let's look at Exhibit A here. I would like to point out, this is an introductory course to Earth Sciences. In the introductory section of the introductory course, the very first thing it says is the Earth rings like a bell. His response to being shown the introductory course information that shows and proves my claims of the vibrational modes of the Earth and where we would find these nodal and antinodal points on the Earth. Please go back to uni. Then upon being given further information to additionally add more basis to my claims, he wants to throw out his basis of authority that he's in the process of getting his PhD. I don't think that matters whether you're right or wrong, actually, because you could be getting your PhD and still not understand this stuff. It's kind of a shame. I will be clear. I told him at every step of the way, like, dude, you keep being willfully ignorant about this. I will make a video about this because this is an example of what I keep seeing over and over from people like you. You just refuse to look at the information and then hurl insults, then hurl your authority, then tell me I need to go back to school or somehow. And this is basic geophysics, honestly. And I'm a little embarrassed for my field because of people like Fidel here and their behavior. And I know that this is how they treat other people on the internet as well, which is just as inappropriate. Let's continue on. As you can see, he likes to continue hurling more ableist slurs, attacking my sanity without engaging in any of the content or any of the actual discussion, just ad hominem after ad hominem after ad hominem. I'm not really sure what's going on with people like this. This is something I really do think needs to be finally pointed out. And I don't think anyone else is pointing it out within my field of physics. Like in textbook fashion, we see the next step where they usually pick some sort of crazy idea that they know of and immediately claim that you're one of those people too. Because he can't actually engage with any of the stuff. He can't prove me wrong on any of the things. He just immediately says, oh, it's like I'm talking to... Because if he can make it look like... I don't know if it's just to him he thinks this. What they do is they try to make it seem like, well, this person's crazy, and I'm saying you're like this person, so that means you're crazy too. It doesn't work that way. It's either a straw man argument or... false analogy. There's like so many logical fallacies that are just red flagging all over the place here. Again, like textbook fashion, we get to the point where he can still no longer engage with any of the content and immediately resorts to Tesla wasn't a scientist, he was an inventor, he was wrong on so many things. I can say for a fact, you have not read anything he's written when you speak like that. You're giving it away, even though you think you're getting the upper hand here. You're just proving your ignorance on this topic. And now I could sit here and continue to go through all of these really childish ableist slurs they like to hurl, where they just continue going in circles, acting like whatever you show them isn't real, or just flat out ignoring it, and then claiming whatever they want. But I decided to go the different route here. I decided to think, hey, let's do some open source intelligence gathering on Fidel here. Let's take a look at his university. Yup, just a coincidence there. Just a coincidence. Because it always clicks to me really fast on these people that like, oh, no, they get it. There's no way this person who has a master's in physics and is getting their PhD in physics doesn't understand this stuff. It's not functionally possible for some of these guys. And I will say, guys, it's never a girl. There's never once been a girl. There's always some dude who just absolutely should know this. I'm going to reference to Carlos the last time we went through all this. Absolutely should know all of the physics and electrical engineering involved in all of this stuff. But then publicly makes a display to attack me. This is quite the coincidence, no? One would... I don't really know how to respond to this. It kind of really leads me to believe that I'm stepping on Fidel's non-public proprietary research that he's doing. Possibly research that if is no longer proprietary, he would lose funding for his research. So he's going out to try and attack me, to make me look crazy because I might be divulging his proprietary research. I don't know. That's speculation. I can't really assume. Though it is a little bit weird that this is now the second expert to have just come out and publicly attack me, call me all sorts of ableist slurs, while refusing to use any kind of science whatsoever to even engage with a single thing I'm saying. Even though that's pretty much the only thing I'm responding back with. I'm not perfect, but 99% of the things I'm responding back with, here's proof, here's more 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 proof. I will deluge you with more evidence if you really want to take the time. But I find this very interesting. His university is just perfectly keyed up to the distances from the Great Pyramid. yeah, that's really just a coincidence. And he's getting a PhD at said university, and he's publicly attacking me using absolutely no physics, just outright attacking my sanity while he does so. This is a very interesting trend that I'm now seeing between a couple different experts here. I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you think is going on here? Do you think I'm stepping on his research, or do you think this is just a coincidence? We're back on the maps. All right, today I want to show you how Athens lines up to the Great Pyramids. It's pretty cool, honestly. I want you to check out these locations. Look at the numbers specifically. I want to point something out. I think a lot of people think I'm just like going around and finding all these key spots and then remembering them and then going and like focusing only on the good spots I found. No. These recordings I'm putting out, I'm just running around on the map and just moving to whatever looks like possible points of interest, like clearings of the land, or dead spots in the growth, or discolorations on roofs. I'm really just running around. I have no aim where I'm heading to. And statistically speaking, if this was just everything was randomly wherever, a lot of things would not line up. I can almost not find things that don't line up. Interesting that I find discolorations of the roof materials, the ground, there's specifically like cracks or discoloration of certain land areas, or specific points that are lining up. Very, very, very key numbers. And why would that be? Because it has to do with the types of waves that are naturally going around the Earth and how they line up with our unit system. It's not that difficult, just simple wave interference of specific waves that happen to give those kinds of divisions. Herein lies the question. Why would this make a difference? Why would you find discolorations of the land there? And I think this goes a little bit further than just electric currents in the ground, because otherwise you wouldn't find these on the roofs of the buildings. And now it could still just be lightning strikes are causing these issues, but I have found this in a lot of places. This is quite a key point here. A while ago, a couple years back, I had the realization of, when I was playing around with Tesla's non-dispersive concentrated energy projector, aka Death Ray, the big highly electrically charged dome, and it uses basically electrostatic force to repel metallic bits at extremely high velocities. He figured out how to make it go really, really high voltage and also make it so it had a higher power output than Van de Graaff generators are usually capable of doing. But I realized, I was like, okay, well, what happens if you put the tower up? You make it really, really highly negatively charged. Obviously, the air around will start to potentially ionize, but typically you don't see that ionization from electrostatics, especially because the vacuum insulated anti-arcing bulbs allow it so that there's no arcing going off. However, that electric field still continues on. I realized that there's constantly tons of cosmic rays that are just raining down on us all the time. If you put your hand out in front of you, there will be a muon that goes through your hand every second. And that's what we've measured it to be right now. And Tesla said he was measuring these with his radiant energy collector patent a long time ago. In fact, I believe he actually discovered the positron a whole 30 years before Carl Anderson inadvertently discovered it with one of his experiments and then got a Nobel Prize for it. But Tesla talks about measuring a positively charged particle coming from the sun in about 2 or 3 years after Thomson discovered the electron, but somehow he didn't get credit for any of it, because everyone thinks that it's a photoelectric effect is how it works, because even though Tesla said you can take the radiant energy collector and go either positive or negative, and photoelectric effect doesn't go both positive or negative, it only does one. But back then they didn't know what cosmic rays were. We were still discovering stuff. So there's constantly positive or negative fundamental particles raining down on us. There's some mesons that are a little bit larger ones, but nevertheless, they're all usually charged particles. I realized that if you put the charge on the dome to extremely high voltage, that would probably start to focus in cosmic rays on it of the opposite charge, because opposites attract. I realized it might not even work as the non-dispersive concentrated energy projector, because the moment you try to charge it up, it just ends up neutralizing from all of the cosmic rays coming and smashing into it. I'm going to accelerate, focus cosmic rays at it. That's pretty interesting. Now, I realize it probably won't happen much with a single one of them. I've been hammering this in my head for so long now, and I really don't know if a single one of them will do that much. Because to get really any real amount of power out from any of these cosmic rays, you have to have a very large area of the sky or the ground to be collecting these. That's a whole nother discussion, especially now that we know the ground is conductive. I realized, I was like, well, what if we could get large areas of the sky to be focused onto a tiny point, and maybe even do that through an array of these out in the land. Or now that I really fully understand his ground transmission system, you could just control the voltage potentials anywhere in the ground, anywhere you want. We could use the Earth itself as the cosmic ray focusing device. I have a focal lens. It's honestly basic, simple electrostatic acceleration. Basically, I realized if you take an area of the ground and you make it extremely positively charged or negatively charged, you're going to focus all the cosmic rays in the sky on that area into a tiny point. And we're talking about high energy particles, which quite literally are the basis for cosmic ray nucleosynthesis. We expend a bunch of energy to accelerate these kinds of particles in our particle accelerators to smash them together, but they're already coming in at 99.9% of the speed of light. I've always wondered, why are we spending all this electricity to accelerate particles and then smash them into each other and cause reactions? Why wouldn't we just use those up there? But because there's not enough coming down. I've even done my own, in my physics degree, I had to go in my modern physics lab, and we measured the muons that were coming down and saw that they were only coming down one every second. We proved that
cosmic rays can't be used for other things because guess what? They're only coming down so few of them at a time, and you can't do anything about it.
And at the time, I accepted that. I just believed it. You know why? Why would I disagree with it? But I have since realized, if they have this system set up around the entire Earth already, they got here way ahead of me, and they got all these buildings in the right places. They got all the churches in the right places. They got all the stadiums. They got everything you can imagine. The dormitories, sports fields, everything for putting all the vibrations into the ground, and those vibrations rectify into electric fields or electric currents because of the electroseismic effect. But this constant concert of waves going around in the ground and the cosmic rays being steered by these, because of course, why wouldn't they? They have to be. There's just electric fields and cosmic rays, and it's just how everything works. And we do know that there's some connection there's theories that the lightning strike that happens because cosmic ray goes ripping through and it ionizes the air, and that's what initiates the actual discharge. I just accepted that muons and all the cosmic rays are only coming down at a certain rate because I measured it and they proved it to me that that's what the rate was. But if they got here over 100 years before me with Tesla's technology, because he definitely figured this out in like 1900, 1901 or 1902, and then they had 30 years to build all of our skyscrapers, all of our everything, everywhere around the world, even not just our stuff in the US, every major city in the world I have found this stuff in. If they got here before me and they have all the technology to literally be funneling out all the cosmic rays wherever they want, there wouldn't be a lot of cosmic rays coming down anywhere else because they've got the system around the entire Earth already set up. They're already focusing all the cosmic rays to exactly where they want. And I mean, I could imagine they're even doing it so much to the point where they've got super tight beams of them focusing down on very key and specific areas. And they might even put buildings there, and then you have just the elevator shaft. Actually, you have a circular stairwell. That's the spiral stairwell, and you've got the beam focus to go through the center of the stairwell. So no one ever walks through this beam. It's just perfectly isolated, but it's in the middle of everything. Now, I had this idea with this when I first realized what could be done with this cosmic ray focusing system. Was just the simple one. I realized that if we use mercury, the cosmic rays smashing into that mercury will cause nucleosynthesis and or essentially the Seaborg method, where you bombard some type of material with higher energetic particles, and you either change a neutron into a proton, or you change a proton into a neutron, or you knock a proton out, or you do other various things, but you reduce the number of protons in the mercury by 1 through nuclear spallation and or bombardment of high energy particles. Well, what happens when you reduce the number of protons in an element? You change its element. And what's one less than mercury? Gold. We already know we can make gold in nuclear reactors and particle accelerators with the bombardment and the Seaborg method. But I was like, wow, if you got a bunch of mercury and you can focus all these cosmic rays onto it, you might make some gold. Now, it won't make only the kind of gold that we want, because there's only one type of isotope of gold that is actually stable. The rest of them are radioactive. However, the half-life of most gold isotopes is like very, very short. It's like a couple days. So if you had a vat of this and you're focusing a bunch of cosmic rays onto it and put them as much gold as you want, nice thing is gold dissolves into mercury. So the gold just like stays dissolved into the mercury as it's made. Basically, bring the mercury up to a very extremely high voltage. It focuses the cosmic rays onto it. It bombards it with cosmic rays. You get some gold out of it. Some of the gold in there is radioactive, some of it's stable. You just leave it for days. Whatever's left in the mercury is gold that's stable. Take what you want out of that, replace the mercury, put a new mercury in there, run that again, do this whole thing, you get more gold out. And you just wait each time for all the radioactive gold to decay back into either mercury or some stable element that you just continue this experiment with. Now, again, it wouldn't do much. It would take a very, very, very long time according to what I measured with my experiment in my physics lab that they had us do. Was that, hey, there's only one muon coming down at a time. There's just not enough of these cosmic rays anywhere for Tesla's radiant energy system to actually work. He was right, but it doesn't actually work because there's just not enough. But you know, I every single thing I've ever read this man write, I agree with, except for like one or two things, which were more personal opinion and culture things rather than science things. Everything I've read this man write has been like spot on, and I've been able to prove it with real modern physics. You just got to know, you don't listen to the other people. Listen. You got to read his work. It's hard because he writes densely, but you got to listen to his work. I've ever read him lie about this stuff once, and I have read through almost every single one of his patents, and they're all on point. Again, and I don't even know if I would have understood them if I had gotten my physics degree 20 years prior, because we discovered most of the higher end particles of the standard particle model within a few years of me just starting my degree. So I got the benefit of 100 years of physics advancements to be taught in my undergraduate degree that I was then just able to recognize the real physics in what he was doing years before everyone else. And I mean, let's just talk about how he, his improved turbine patent literally was the Chang thermodynamic cycle that Tesla invented a whole 50 years before Dr. Chang somehow got credit for it in the 70s. It's a whole new thermodynamic cycle that improves the Brayton and Rankine cycle. Tesla invented it 50 years before Dr. Chang in 1921, but Dr. Chang got credit for it in 1970-something. 50 years he discovered this this improved and much more highly efficient thermodynamic cycle. But okay, he said he was measuring tons of cosmic rays, that he was like, there were so many of them, he was like, I can make power with this. And we could power a lot of things with this. But right now, again, I proved it in my physics degree because we went and measured the cosmic rays, and there's only one that comes down every second, and it's just not enough. You do the math, add it up. It doesn't happen anywhere. It's just not enough cosmic rays. Yeah, well, if you're already focusing them everywhere and no one else has that access to them because you've already focused them down into tight beams and key locations, of course we're not going to measure them anywhere else and they won't be usable. To put an analogy on this, is as if Tesla went off into the jungle and then he came back and said, I found this waterfall, and it is just an unimaginably tall waterfall, and there's so much water gushing from it, we could power the entire world from this thing. We just got to put turbines on it. I got to take you there, I got to show you where it is. And so we go on this journey with Tesla, and we don't go into the wilderness, and let's just say, for the experiment's sake, let's say Tesla dies along this journey, but he tells us where to go find this waterfall. We continue on to this journey. We keep trudging through the forest. We get to the location Tesla says, and then there's no waterfall. We see the giant cliff. We see there used to be a waterfall, maybe, but there's no water. There's like literally a trickle coming over the waterfall. But we're just like, okay, wow, dude, why would he have sent us along this whole giant journey to only find out that there's no actual waterfall here? It's not an unimaginable amount of gushing water. So that would just assume that Tesla didn't tell anyone else about this, and that someone else with a lot more money, a lot more resources didn't go trekking through the other side of the woods or another route, or just over the woods because they had a plane or something, and they just got there first, then diverted all of the water to where they want it, and by the time we got there, the waterfall just doesn't have any. And so we just assume, oh, well, Tesla must have been lying. He didn't know what there's not that many coming down. He was far too ahead of himself. He really didn't understand physics, which is what they said about his wireless transmission, but really they didn't even know it goes through the ground and not the air. So of course they knew he was wrong about this, or did the same people who literally claim his wireless system can't work, who are also using it to do these cosmic ray focusing and everything, did they also then divert all the cosmic rays first in tight beams focused around the Earth so that we couldn't go measure them or use them? Did they set up the whole world system to be able to focus these cosmic rays where they pleased to do them at, and then turned around and said, well, Tesla was a bozo, he didn't know what he was talking about. See, when you measure them, they're not there. I bought it, but it's a magic trick, man. You just assume that there's not other people working ahead of you, or I didn't get there first, or, I mean, I'm not even saying this is done for nefarious purposes. This is definitely for military confidentiality. I totally get national security. I got it. But still, I mean, I'm going to say it's a fun ruse. Funroos. I see your trick. I see it. Funroos. But I can't. I've been working on this idea for about 5 to 10 years now, trying to find a hole in this. And every day I find something new that proves it more. Did they get there first and divert the waterfall? And then stood around like, see, there's no waterfall. Can't use it. Tesla's wrong. Is that why we got off of gold? So we can just make it? I wonder why. It's just a coincidence. If we don't really have an explanation other than I'm just going to leave it up to you to
come up with whatever theory you want.
The Chapel of Sacred Mirrors was based on a vision that Allison and I had back in 1985. And it finally came to fruition in 2004. We opened our doors in New York City, in Chelsea, and for 5 years it was a nexus for visionary culture in Manhattan. Entered into an infinite vista of toroidal fountains and drains of light. And it seemed like every being in the universe was one of these balls of light, kind of like a cell in the body of God.
The only hardcore thing is that there is an extremely classified document dealing with religion about that fact. But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion? I want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say it. It's so far out. It's just all right. Your objection has been noted. Okay. What does it say?
It all starts with drawing, and really starts with altering your consciousness so that you have a vision.
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers. Containers.
It seemed like this was what was really real behind the veil of the material world. Because consciousness is the ultimate medium. What you're trying to do is to have an experience that is worth sharing and then download it into another person's consciousness. I think
it's a great honor to be able to provide a container.
We are nothing but containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the document. That religion was specifically created
for creative uplifting.
So we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose,
people
not damaging the container.
Have a place where they can go with their hungry soul, just to feel connected with other people who are good-spirited and have good intention.
But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion?
It raises your entire being to a higher level of
container.
It was all made of love. The light was love, and it connected us all.
We are nothing but containers of
expectation of yourself.
In 2009, we moved up to the Hudson Valley to build a temple. And this is an experiment to download into another person's consciousness, spirit and community.
That religion was specifically created
to build a temple, to download into another person's consciousness.
So it's basically an infinite net. You can see the reflection of every other facet.
We traveled to arenas and festivals across the world to share with friends and to declare our commitment to
download into another person's consciousness.
That comes out of the psychedelic experience.
Building a sanctuary of visionary art.
To download into another person's consciousness.
The only hardcore thing is that there is an extremely classified document dealing with religion about that fact. We containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the document.
We studied sacred sites and spoke with spiritual community builders across 5 continents.
In 2014, the town planners approved the building of Entheon, transforming a 3-story carriage house into a stunning 12,000 square foot exhibition of the finest original works of visionary art. another person's consciousness. I think we are a continuum of consciousness. Everything, everyone, everywhere, every when, we're a continuum of God selves. And whether we recognize it or not is our own, stage on the path. So, I am you. You are me. Really. We are sacred mirrors.
About patterns in nature. So you see, if you're watching a stream and it goes around rocks, there's chaos to that, but there's an incredible order to it. And when you're doing psychedelics, you experience the blending
into another person's consciousness.
The chaos and order becomes one. You see the pattern in nature. And even though it's called chaos, it's all made of the same thing. That's what I express in my work. The chaos in my work is made of the same material that the order is made of. It's all made up of
containers of
particles and waves, particles and systems.
Containers.
Cells and systems. It makes up chaos and it makes up order. So chaos really is order. It's like a different kind of order. And when you do psychedelics, you resolve these polarities. You resolve all polarities.
Maybe containers and souls, you can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the document.
To be able to provide a container.
Come up with whatever theory you want.
In a future planetary civilization, Pantheon offers a gathering place.
Containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the document.
Pantheon offers a gathering place, honoring all traditions that bring people closer to the divine. The Cosm Permanent Collection and the annually rotating exhibition of original works by accomplished masters of visionary art will celebrate the mystical experience, humanity's touchstone, the spirit. Entheon is a legacy gift from the Love Tribe to the global family for contemplation, ceremonies, and spiritual creative programs.
Come up with whatever theory you want.
Art is an echo of the creative force that birthed the galaxies. Creativity is the way that the cosmos evolves and communicates with itself. The great uplifting of humanity beyond its self-destruction is the redemptive mission of art.
Come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the document. That religion was specifically created so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the container. About that period. But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion? want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say it. It's so far out. All right, your objection has been noted. Okay. What does it say? That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers. Containers of? Containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers. And that's how we're mentioned in the document. That religion was specifically created so we had some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the container.
Lou Elizondo really ran what he says is a secret program.
You've actually seen alien technology.
I have. I saw a technical device that had been removed by the Department of Veterans Affairs from a U.S. military service member who claimed to have a UAP encounter. The physician claimed the object tried to evade being excised.
So let me get this right. Whatever it is, it's a constructed object.
It's a technological object enveloped in some sort of biological capsule.
It's really unbelievable what he is accusing. I think you might be wondering,
what is his background? What is his motivation for actually coming forward?
He began his career in the Army. He worked as a counterintelligence special agent. I mean, this is a public servant, right? I think he wants the truth to be told. And then he moved on to advanced aerospace counterintelligence program that was inside the Pentagon.
What we know is that it's not us humans.
What do you find, though, the most plausible explanation?
Well, I mean, these things could be just as natural as we are. They could be from the oceans. We don't know.
So it may not be alien at all?
No, this is my point.
You've actually seen alien technology.
I have. We have to be careful because
he worked as a counterintelligence special agent.
We always assume
a counterintelligence special agent. He wants the truth to be told.
Well, if it's not human, it's alien. Well, let's back up for a second, because what's your definition of alien? Remember when we started sailing the ocean blue and people said there were sea monsters? We laugh about that now. Oh, sea monsters. But you know what? There are. They're called blue whales and great white sharks and the great squid of the Pacific, and they're not really monsters. They're part of our natural environment. Is it possible these things were from outer space? Sure. Is it possible they're from underwater? Sure. Is it possible that they've been here all along? Sure. We don't know yet.
The government says that he worked as a counterintelligence special agent. They do not have credible evidence.
To become an expert, you can't just sit in an armchair and say, I was a counterintelligence officer.
Don't take this in the wrong way.
It requires looking through journals.
But now I've had enough.
That's what we have learned is that
we do things always your way.
Worked as a counterintelligence special agent. I mean, this is a public service.
I see, I get it, I know.
Lou Elizondo really ran counterintelligence, and they continue to deny all of the allegations that
Nikola Tesla's actual wireless transmission system did not rely on transmitting energy through the air using
radio waves.
Instead, he proposed a system that leveraged the natural conductive properties of the Earth.
I'm going to read you just my opening line here.
And this is where we are.
Okay, now that it's just us here, let me illustrate a point that many of you might have already caught. Skeptics and material science often ignores the study of things that hoaxers have been caught perpetuating. They see the scam and they call it debunked because, well,
I know a subwoofer when I see one. You know, only everything I'm talking about with all my theories here is to do with vibrations put into the ground, you know, acoustics in the ground. No. Speakers wouldn't be used at all in this, and it wouldn't possibly be related to this, and wouldn't possibly need to have some sort of cover program where they claim, oh, these flying saucers are also these exact things that look like speakers too. Those if acoustic waves can't be used for anything. Oh my god. They just use so many layers for subterfuge on this. It's kind of brilliant, and it's impressive, the work they've put into this. I'm getting tired of this, though. We need to use this so we can heal our planet and fix our shit. And yes, they absolutely would use it for cover for both vibrations in the ground and...
I'm just gonna go and ruin everything they're doing.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Which is why he's stepping forward.
All the flying saucer disc nonsense that's spread all seems like explicit cover for Tesla disc turbine propulsion systems. Even the pictures of real UFOs are faked pictures because really some dude went out in his yard and threw a metal plate up into the air If your whole confidential project was built around Tesla turbines and you wanted to give the illusion of like aliens or whatever nonsense, you take one of the discs, toss it in the air. Yeah, a flying saucer. Spread tons of news all over the country about flying saucers and aliens, and anyone mentions the word disc, whether it's planned or not. Oh my god, you know about the flying saucers?
You can come up with whatever theory you want.
Get another image of a separate UFO being called the chandelier.
What was the most impressive thing to you about this video?
It makes no sense. It is just the most bizarre structure with no purpose. It has everyone across the intelligence community just asking questions and trying to figure out what this thing is. No wings. There's seemingly no place for anyone to sit on. It's just a bizarre shape.
All right, we have the picture of the chandelier UFO, as it's being called. Where's the video, Jeremy?
I think I'm going to have to answer that at another time, but I will say there is more footage. So some people got to see portions of it within the intelligence community. The object did go into the water, and then it did come out and shoot off at an extraordinary speed.
Wait, are you talking about
The propellers only have to spin 180 times a minute to move enough water to propel it.
Self-rights itself, then it can spin the propellers,
and then it takes off into the air like a normal drone.
In fact, that was a lie, and it is now an admitted lie by our own
Jeremy Corbell.
There are craft that are performing maneuvers, a mechanistic turn, moving in a way that is counterintuitive to our own aeronautics. This has to be a gravity-propelled craft.
It's rotating.
Exactly the propulsion system that Bob Lazar described.
Does Jeremy Corbell
look like a fucking
physicist
to you? No, it doesn't. I know I'm clearly not doing any more digging into any particular topic.
Wait a minute. Corbell has a degree from Santa Cruz in quantum study. Finding a lot of people within this circle that should know about this, but just don't happen to understand it all. They can't figure it out. Usually that's a master's and PhD focus. Can't find anywhere that he's got a master's. Certainly doesn't use the word doctor on his name. I'm not saying he didn't. What is this degree that you've got, bud?
Just ridiculous.
It is counterintuitive to our own aeronautics.
Absolutely not true. We have gyroscopic stabilizers for satellites because in space, for the satellite to turn, it pushes on the gyroscope. In the physics lab that I taught at Michigan Tech, this was the favorite lesson I like to teach. It was a really cool steering around when you're turning. First week stuff in physics here, Jeremy. Tesla's flying apparatus pack talks about using high-speed dual Tesla turbine, works as a gyroscope stabilizer. And if you go watch Travis Taylor's show about Tesla,
Travis Taylor, Jason Stapleton, Charlie Moses. So this is a patent from Nikola Tesla. How feasible is something like that? The concept is certainly innovative and it'll work. Big problem I see is there's no way to counteract torque there. It's in a tail rotor.
You don't need it.
You clearly want to make some, so why not just make it?
Because I'm scared.
Of what?
I don't know.
Exactly. Just make what you want to make.
In the patent, Tesla says you could do a multi-prop rotor across the wing.
You know what the solution is, mate?
What's that?
Internal combustion. It's the solution to everything. Speed and power.
Aircraft, we have two prop rotors spinning that counteract the torque from each other.
Bravo Zulu, Colonel.
Or another problem. Okay.
Travis, I don't know how many times I'm going to catch you not doing your homework. It's right in the patent.
The Air Force has made an art form of ridiculing people who have talked about this thing. They've done an excellent job of covering it up for the last 40 years. George, basically what we're dealing with here...
In March 1989, he accompanied a small group to Area 51.
Did you see that move it did?
No, I didn't.
It went like I kept doing...
It had a poster, and it looked like a commercial poster almost, like it was lithographed, and you could buy it at a Kmart or something.
The Air Force has made an art form.
And it had the disc that I coined the term the sport model. Was lifted off the ground about 3 feet at area S4. When I was let in, it was the first time I saw the sport model. I was told they could have walked me in the front door, but they purposely wanted to walk me by it. I was told not to say anything and just keep my eyes forward and walk past the disc into the office area. As we went by it, I just kind of stuck my hands on it just to run it alongside the thing. That was about the smallest time.
The Air Force has made an art form of ridiculing people who have talked about this. They've done an excellent job of covering it up.
Security at S4 used fear and intimidation almost as a brainwashing tool.
It did everything but physically hurt me.
This is based on what I've come across after intense research in the last year.
A solid cylinder is not even a solid cylinder. It consists of many discs stacked up, and these are fused together to produce that. And all of these discs that were cut at unusual angles. Now, if you don't do all this, that doesn't work. So, unfortunately, that's the extent of my knowledge on this. This makes no sense. anywhere. That's what it takes for it to operate. And a small reactor directs it through the archways into the emitters and allows it to propel the craft for whatever use they want.
I don't believe a word of this. Do you expect people to believe this?
No, I'm not going to change anyone's mind. I'm just relaying, but it's true.
Did you know that the Tesla turbine is reversible in not just one way, but two?
It's true.
Firstly, without any complex means like a reversing gear, the turbine can be spun in the opposite direction. All that is needed is for a switching mechanism to change the direction in which the fluid comes spiraling in. Normal bladed turbines can't do this due to the blade geometry design. Secondly, the Tesla turbine is also said to be reversible because it can work like a centrifugal pump or compressor. The rotor can actually be spun to propel the fluid along with the discs as they rotate. Or option number 3, Travis Taylor is in fact working with the Air Force currently.
You'll say to yourself, my gosh, the son of a gun was right.
Well, there goes Andrew Bustamante, a known CIA agent. Definitely has some counterintelligence agents out here.
It's surprising to us in a lot of ways. First of all, really, in just how much it seems to be under the radar.
Bustamante.
We didn't really hear of it much either. We came across it in our research and found out there's a long history of high strangeness and significant military presence. As we started digging into
Bustamante,
found is it has
counterintelligence agents. Yes, they absolutely would use it for cover for both vibrations in the ground and
Just gonna go and ruin everything they're doing. Fucking.
¿Por qué no los dos?
If they aren't already, Navy should be using Tesla turbines for direct propulsion as stealth trolling motors and auxiliary power units to power onboard electronics. When the Tesla turbine, or tester for short, is designed correctly, it has no windage or almost zero turbulent losses between the disks. Tesla himself even believes so. Such a prime mover possesses many advantages, both constructive and operative. It is simple, light, compact, subject to little wear, and exceptionally easy to manufacture, as small clearances and accurate milling work are not essential to good performance. In operation, it is reliable, there being no valves, sliding contacts, or troublesome vanes. It is almost free of windage, largely independent of nozzle efficiency, and suitable for high as well as for low fluid velocities and speeds of revolution. Wow, that all sounds amazing, doesn't it? But what does that mean? What exactly is windage anyways? Windage refers to the flow losses created as a fluid moves over the surface of an object. In the case of a traditional bladed turbine, as the blades spin at high rotor tip speeds, it disrupts the surrounding fluid flow, leading to turbulent vortices forming at the tips of the blades. These turbulent vortices have multiple adverse effects. They reduce efficiency, cause vibration, and produce noise. Turbulence at the blade tips equates to lost kinetic energy, diminishing the efficiency of the turbine. The whirling vortices can cause the turbine parts to violently vibrate, which puts additional wear and tear on the system. These vibrations further propagate out as sound waves. This means windage causes a high level of operational noise, which is not ideal for stealth submarines that rely on being undetectable. Think about the iconic high-pitched whine of a bladed turbojet when the rotors are spinning at high RPM. Every blade tip essentially gives off a little flapping noise. Extensive and expensive CFD modeling is done to reduce these windage losses, but it's never perfect. Some drone thrusters, in fact, choose a high blade number count and a high RPM so that the flapping frequency coming off the thruster is higher than the human hearing. But while that's a neat trick for hiding the sound from our human ears, it doesn't get rid of the sound for robot ears that can listen in a full broadband spectrum. Even more in the optical spectrums, there are minor EM field variations from each blade tip that could potentially be detected by enemy vessels if the active EM shielding that military naval vessels use falters or outright fails. In contrast, the uniform shape of the flat and thin discs in the tester has no external geometry to give off acoustic or EM field oscillations or variations as it rotates. The tester further minimizes these problems by leveraging the principles of laminar flow. Laminar flow is a fluid flow regime characterized and governed by viscous forces within the fluid, as opposed to turbulent or chaotic flow regimes characterized and governed by the fluid's kinetic energies and momentum. In laminar flow regimes, fluids move in parallel layers with minimal mixing, which generates dramatically less sound as well as mechanical vibrations. A key factor in achieving this laminar flow lies in the spacing between the turbine's discs. Like in a laminar flow nozzle that uses many straws to straighten and align the bulk flow direction of the fluid, the thin parallel disc spacing similarly straighten the bulk flow of the fluid through the turbine, as well as eliminate any turbulence or eddies between the disc faces. Even more so, the tester disc stack itself can act like an acoustic baffle for any fluid turbulence in the nozzle, which all bladed turbines coincidentally suffer from in their stationary or stator blades too. With these benefits in mind, it's easy to see why I believe the tester could be the quietest turbine ever devised. But wait, there's more. Here's the kicker. You may have heard of supercritical fluids, but not know what they are. Simply put, the supercritical point of a fluid is the pressure and temperature point that above which there is no phase state change between a gas and a liquid. Conveniently, that means supercritical fluids have properties of both liquids and gases. Now, why does this matter? Supercritical fluids, like those coming out of a nuclear reactor cooling system, have an added bonus of having the thick viscosity of a liquid, but can also expand like an elastic gas in a turbine Brayton cycle. When built right, testers having a motive fluid with the viscosity of a liquid means it will get an insane amount of torque even at low RPMs, and it wouldn't even need tight disk spaces because of the thickness of the supercritical fluid. Corollary, an elastic supercritical steam expanding in a tester via a Brayton thermodynamic cycle has a higher thermal efficiency than a typical steam Rankine cycle because no energy must go to the latent heat of vaporization needed for the liquid water to change phase to the gaseous steam, which is what limits the thermal efficiency of a normal steam Rankine system in the first place. This thermal efficiency limit of steam Rankine cycles is because of the latent heat of vaporization and condensation in the steam that is not usable for expansion to get mechanical energy out at the turbine shaft. Furthermore, on top of it not being useful for power out from the turbine, it still needs to be removed from the fluid in the condenser to reduce the pressure of the exhaust of the turbine. This makes the supercritical steam perhaps the best motive fluid for the tester. This is especially so for metallic discs, as the conductive metals are usually naturally hydrophilic, meaning readily attractive to polar H2O molecules. This creates a good molecular adhesion and grip of the motive fluid to the disc faces, further reducing slip of the fluid on the discs and increasing torque in an efficient manner. Because the unique viscous and elastic properties of supercritical steam, the turbine will be able to generate an immense amount of torque even at low RPMs, and do so not just with a high isentropic efficiency, but with a very high thermodynamic efficiency. Some might argue that all these benefits might be null if the tester isn't actually efficient, but here's my counter. Even if the tester wasn't the epitome of efficiency, the nuclear reactors on these ships have more fuel than the ship will use in its lifetime. When the objective is to be as quiet and stealthy as possible, efficiency takes a back seat. To put it in perspective, think about the afterburners in a fighter plane turbojet engine. They're not designed for efficiency with the prodigious amount of fuel they burn. They're designed for speed. To bring this back to nuclear-powered submarines, they care primarily about noise reduction. Traditional bladed turbines will always have some windage and vibration, requiring passive and active noise cancelling on the submersible vessel. The Tesla turbine, however, doesn't have these issues. So here's my bottom line. If they aren't already, navies should be using Tesla turbines for direct propulsion as stealth trolling motors and auxiliary power units to power onboard electronics. And as an added bonus, they should just go ahead and ditch all the bladed propellers and use the tester disc stack as water thrusters, providing a quieter and smoother underwater propulsion system. In summary, when designed correctly, the Tesla turbine offers a revolutionary way to achieve both quiet and efficient operations, something I believe no bladed turbine or propeller could compete with. To bring the turbine a little bit closer to a final point, and even a little bit closer to Bob Lazar's theories here, if the motive fluid going through the turbine has two opportunities to expand, once in the nozzle and then once through the spiral pathway, if it's still expanding through the spiral passageway, there's what's known as the reheat factor. With the fluid moving faster than the discs at the tips as it comes in, there is a heat that's generated from the viscous friction and even just friction within the casing. That heat generated can still further be reutilized and recouped through that spiral section as the fluid continues to expand. What that means is, if we get heat that's still being generated inside the turbine that is possible for expansion, imagine if the discs were radioactive. So just the discs generated the heat. You don't need a boiler or reactor on the side. The turbine is the reactor. Why do you think they always want to run around and get all the discs? Anyone of these plane crashes, if they ever have one go down, they race to get the discs, because those discs are radioactive. Bob Lazar talks about how you have to cut them at a special angle. It's usually because you grow high-end turbine parts from single crystals and machine them down from that. Single metallic crystals. So what that means is, I don't know quite enough metallurgy to fully explain this, but I have to imagine there's just some sort of radioactive metal. Heck, you could probably even just use all the waste stainless steel that's just radioactive after being used in a regular nuclear reactor. Anyway, basically you make special radioactive, let's just go, special single crystal uranium discs that go inside of a special designed casing that works as a control rod. You can make this work in any number of ways, where it either like clamshells further over top of the casing that closes on it, and the more you close the clamshell on it, the more the turbine just keeps spinning up because it just starts heating up. And if you need to slow down, you pull the clamshell moderator off of it. Oh my god, I can literally think of the demon cord just on top of the turbine. You want it to go faster, you close the cord. You want it to go slower.
I have no idea, sir, but if we don't open the iris,
the next thud we hear will be her voice.
Close the iris.
Close the iris if necessary.
But then also for the discs, we're going to grow them in the single crystal, have the crystalline structure being in a certain angle on the full growth. And when you cut your discs, you got to cut them along that one angle on the crystal that's being grown. It might have the highest tensile strength along that axis of the crystalline structure, or the crystalline metallic lattice. Regardless, it makes it super cool. Radioactive hot discs. They are the heat. You just push fluid in. If it spans on the way out, it'll get power out.
Element 115 was what we would call the fuel, what provided the power for the reactor to work. Element 115 produces its own energy. It had a very specific manufacturing technique. Its code name was LA-1000. That's what it was referred to, off-site. Its purpose was supposed to be, again, this is just a code and deception, was supposed to be an advanced armor. So it's an unusual material, so now we can take it to a national lab. This is LA-1000, classified material. It's a very advanced armor. That takes care of all weird questions. So, you immediately start operating on lies. This fuel is somewhat copper in color. That reddish, brownish. The way this is manufactured is really critical. It's not just cut out of a heavy sheet of material.
Lanolin? Lanolin, like sheep's wool? Lanolin, like sheep's wool?
Fuel cells and so on. You're running your car on
hydrogen. Can't run a car on water.
But you're using water.
Right. You use water as the source material. You run electricity through it, and it breaks it down into hydrogen and oxygen, and then you can burn the hydrogen.
All right, so you found a way to store a lot more hydrogen in hydrate. The equivalent of a full tank of gas. You want to fill up your car? How much hydrate do you need?
Well, I'll show.
No way.
Yeah, that's the volume it takes to store enough hydrogen to propel this car close to 400 miles. Just about what it gets running on a full tank of gas.
Wow.
And it's a lot safer than gasoline.
Really?
Yeah, these tanks can be shot at with incendiary bullets or cut in half with a chainsaw, and you can throw a match on them, they just smolder like a cigarette. Now, you can't say that about a gas tank. Now, if you store hydrogen and just compressed gas in a tank, it certainly explode, catch on fire. Here, only the hydrogen that you need is released from the tank. When the tank's heated, it produces hydrogen, and the car burns it. So there's never much gaseous hydrogen in the system at any given time.
Wow.
This provides power to the heater in the tank, and also reads back the temperature of the tank.
Why is that important?
Well, when you apply heat to hydride, it releases hydrogen. So as power is applied to here, it heats the hydride, and then the gas comes out the big hoses on the end.
Yeah, you have 4 hoses. Do they all mix into one big hose or something?
Because you can only get hydrogen out of hydride at a certain rate with a certain temperature. And a single tank, you can't get it out at the volume you need. So you really just split it into 4 smaller units, heat them separately, and it works just fine.
Now behind me, Bob is getting ready to blow something up. Bob is blowing up water. Well, okay, he's not blowing up water because, as he said, to say you're powering your car on water is the same thing as saying that you're running your car on gasoline, you're powering your car on dinosaurs, and we know that's not the case. This is what?
This is a Hoffman apparatus,
and it's used to
produce hydrogen and oxygen from water.
For fun, just because it's cool.
Well, if you just have it used for hydrogen and oxygen or for demonstration purposes, it works just perfect. All you got to do is fill it with water.
That's just regular water, right?
Well, actually, water with a little citric acid, potassium hydroxide, anything like that. The more conductive you make the water, the faster hydrogen will come out.
And each one of these sides is supposed to be hydrogen and oxygen.
Right. One will be hydrogen will bubble up out of one, and oxygen will bubble up out of the other. Remember, water is H2O.
Right.
So when we break the bond of water apart, we'll get twice as much hydrogen gas as we do oxygen.
Oh, and there'll be more on this side?
Yes.
That's the hydrogen side.
Exactly. And that's the negative.
Oh, so it matters which way you hook these up. So you got to hook up positive to what is the positive going to make.
Positive will make up the oxygen, and the negative will make the hydrogen.
Okay.
So we've just connected it there,
right?
And just by turning on, you can see bubbles start pouring up out of there.
They're setting up. So those bubbles are, well, they're not the same. So these are hydrogen bubbles, and those are oxygen bubbles.
Right.
And this is whiter. There's more of them.
Right. Well, you can see it's really.
Why is there more? Oh, H2.
Oh, right. There's twice as much. Hey, that actually makes sense. So I'll close it off so it saves.
Right.
Seals the gas in, and then you'll see it'll start filling up.
Oh, we don't have to go away overnight if this is what we're watching?
Yeah, it'll be relatively quick. And what we'll do is take a little sample of the hydrogen gas and light it.
Right.
You can see.
What are these? You just have electrical current going to a piece of
well, it's a piece of platinum foil, and the reason you need platinum in there is because it's very corrosive to a metal for electrolysis to occur. I mean, it's really ripping the atoms of the metal apart, but platinum is highly resistant to corrosion. Now, this is a slow method.
Right.
And you know, it consumes a fair amount of electricity. Now, if the electricity is being produced from solar panels or a wind generator, it doesn't cost you anything, so who cares? But still, you don't want to wait, hours and hours and hours and hours to refill a vehicle. You want something that can produce hydrogen at a fairly quick rate. So let's go ahead and extract some of this.
Okay. Look at that.
Wow. So there's power of hydrogen. Well, there's a standard gasoline fill, but also there's a hydrogen in it, which you just click on, leave it on overnight, and as the generator makes hydrogen, it compresses it in there at a nice slow rate, and the tanks become full over a period of about 8 hours or so. There are little points here and there that do have to be addressed. I mean, when it comes right down to it, you don't want fuel tanks inside the vehicle. This is a prototype, so ideally, eventually, you'd want the tanks outside, just like a fuel tank is. The second thing is you're dealing with an unusual gas. Hydrogen not only is lighter than air, but also it burns with an invisible flame and is completely odorless, which is not a good thing. Now, propane is odorless too. They add that pretty strong scent to it, and you can't really do that with hydrogen because if you add any kind of chemical to it, the hydride has a problem storing it. It can poison the hydride and lose its ability to hold hydrogen. So that's something that needs to be addressed. You have a hydrogen leak and somehow the gas is getting in the car, you'd never know. And it could accumulate in the car. You go to light a cigarette, there could be an explosion in a case like that. So you need things like a hydrogen gas detector, so it'll let you know if there is a hydrogen leak. But I mean, it's still an extremely safe system.
Why can't everybody do this? I mean, gas is going at $5 a gallon. Right. It's terrible. The whole country's falling apart. We're killing people all over the world for oil. And this, you're driving a car on this, and you can do it, and you can convert any other car.
Yeah, unless I'm sure there are cars that have some technical problems. But yeah, essentially, any car can be converted. The whole problem to it is the material in the hydride. The hydride itself. One of the main components of it is classified as a weapon material, and it can only be used in thermonuclear weapons. And because, even though it's not a dangerous material, explosive or anything by itself, just because it's used within those nuclear weapons that are obviously secret and the components thereof, but because it's used in those, it can't be used for any other civilian purposes. So you can't even purchase the material.
No.
Which is why we had to make it.
You made it?
Yeah, we made it.
But isn't that, don't you need big particle accelerators and things?
So that was the one loophole. You can make the material, you can't buy it. So
where's the particle? You have a particle accelerator?
Yeah, so all you have to do is build a particle accelerator and you can make all the hydride you need.
The biggest thing that stands in the way right now is just getting that material inside the tank, that hydride material.
Right.
And the reason you can't is because
it's a weapon material.
But there's nothing dangerous about it.
No, it's
it
just
won't
used
blow
as a
up.
weapon. Right.
Well, beryllium's used in a weapon too.
Right.
Basically, this whole thing boils down to how you store the hydrogen. So we found a metal. We have a material that we can store the hydrogen in.
We have a material we can safely store hydrogen in, and a sufficient quantity to replace the gas tank on a car. So we can provide enough hydrogen to drive a car as you normally would. Use green energy to make the hydrogen, either solar or wind power. There's a medium to store it in. That's it. Both problems are handled. All the other little bells and whistles can be taken care of in time, but the basic system works. It has for a long time.
Wow.
That's it.
Man, if we had just a fraction of what the oil companies are wallowing
If we
in
had
right now.
the budget of one day in Iraq, this entire system would be available to everybody.
Hafnium isomers, atomic nuclei pumped up on steroids and ready to explode. But what exactly is this microscopic stick of dynamite? Hafnium isomers are forms of the metal hafnium, in which the nucleus has the same number of protons and neutrons, but the energy stored in the nucleus is cranked up to insane levels. The nucleus acts like a tightly compressed spring under huge tension and just looking for any excuse to violently unwind. The most promising isomer is hafnium-178m2, packing 2.5 million electron volts of nuclear energy in each atom. With that much zip locked up, hafnium isomers have more spark than plutonium atoms.
Internal conversion electrons. Internal conversion is a form of de-excitation, where an excited nucleus changes from an excited state to a ground state. When this occurs, excess energy is released and directly transferred to an orbital electron, which is usually from the K-shell. This internal conversion electron is ejected immediately, leaving a vacancy which now needs to be filled. An electron from a higher energy level will move to this spot, and when it does, an X-ray or Auger electron is then released. This second vacancy will also need to be filled, thus causing an electron cascade.
So annoyingly, I couldn't find a video that explains a simple nucleon excitation, de-excitation, other than they said it. But to be clear, is usually explained for the nucleus before you get to higher levels of quantum, is that it's generally just a ball of the nucleons, of the protons and neutrons, and then it's enveloped by a cloud of electrons that are all in these orbital shells that are weird probability spaces and defined by its wave function. But there's like a ball of the nucleus in the center. But what was really going on is that all of the nucleons, the protons and neutrons, stack up in another set of different cloud shell orbitals. They take on the exact same quantum states as the electron shells, but they do it to a different shape because they have much different masses and the forces are different, has different parameters to it. But just like an electron can be excited to a higher electron orbital with a photon, and the electron drops back down from the excited orbital, it emits a photon. Any one of the nucleons in the center, in the nucleus, in their orbital shell model, they can also be excited to a higher energy state while still being in that nucleus. This is what's known as a nuclear isomer. If they're stable, where there's like a nucleus, a specific type of nucleus that you can excite one of its nucleons to a higher state, and it makes that nucleus stable, versus it might not be stable without that excited. So it's kind of like make an unstable nucleus, but then lock it as stable by exciting one of its nucleons to make it a stable set, even though it wouldn't be a stable number of regular isotope. To kind of give a subtle analogy here, take a look at me playing. If you watch this, what happens here, the move I do, it kind of gets the whole like orbital motion gets unstable, and it's almost as if like you would have to like shoot it with a photon right at that point where it becomes unstable, and it like locks the toy into a new orbital stable that is stable, that the rest of the motions can stay stable with it without, smacking me in the face and then I drop everything, This is important is because those nucleon excitations, the energy drop, equivalently in a electron orbital shell, the energy drop, it's pretty large, but it's not like crazy. But the excitation drop, or the energy for the nucleon excitation drop, is extremely massive, like crazy massive, that the energy to weight ratio is that you can like store in a nucleus. To be clear, it's not just unstable isotopes that are locked in as stable isotopes as an isomer with an excited nucleon. It can be regular stable isotopes that just have one of the regular nucleons excited, but that energy drop is huge. It's like even relative to what we know of nuclear fission and nuclear fusion energy releases. This can excite one of the nucleons in depending on what isotope or material or specific one that's being used. The decay half-life of it can either be really long or really short, so you can store energy in these isomers or these excited nucleons, but you would need it into an isomer that's a stable isomer. In 2019, I had at least drawn this, but I figured this out a lot earlier. So I had been working on the turbines. This was one of the very first ones I had. Maybe you can see through it. Yeah, you can see through it there. This was supposed to be a 2-stage, kind of like this, but it was just missing the center. So it went into these small ones right here, and then there's holes inside of here. You can't see that transition between the 2 stages. Well, the point of all this was, one of the original design features that I had put into this system was that I had come up with a thermoelectric disc stack, where each of the discs of the turbine was made of a different type metal. If you look here, I'll point up a thermoelectric. You use 2 dissimilar metals, and you have a connecting tips, and then you have them connecting at the bottom. And what this would require is alternating conductive and non-conductive star washers that provide every other connection. And then up at the top here, we do alternating conductive, non-conductive spacers. I have mica spacers and I had copper spacers to do inside of here. Ignore the blood on my hand. These discs get sharp. So what this point of this was, is when you have a Tesla turbine, the fluid does expand first in the nozzle, but then it still has a chance to expand through the spiral pathway going through the turbine. If that motive fluid is expanding going through the turbine, that means it will be cooler by the time it gets to the exhaust in the center. What that means is there will be a temperature thermal gradient from the tips of the discs to the center of the discs. As such, with this thermoelectric disc stack, with the proper alternating star washers that are conductive and non-conductive and alternating tip conductive and non-conductive spacers, this creates a thermoelectric circuit that the radial temperature gradient across the disc stack from the tips to the center generates a DC current flow through the axial direction of the disc stack that snakes up and down. What happens here is you take this current and you discharge it so that this tube is separate from the center shaft, so that the positive goes to this center shaft all the way to the outside set of plates, and then the negative goes around the tube on the outside and goes to this set of plates. So there will be whatever the potential gradient of voltage across the disc stack here generated from the radial fluid temperature gradient will produce a voltage potential across the second stage disc stack, which is then used for electrolysis of any remaining fluid. We're already going to have this natural thermal gradient, so by utilizing this to make electricity with it, it actually turns part of the turbine into a solid state electric generator. Why that's cool is that means inside of like a plane or a turbine or a turbojet engine, before the turbine's even spinning up, you could use the disc stack as an electric generator to power onboard electronics or whatever you want inside the thing without having to actually have the turbine even spinning. The whole point was that it has 2 ways of making power. Once with a rotational mechanical power, and twice with the thermoelectric effect across the disc stack. Corollary, then using that disc stack in a many disc stack electrolysis device, you then get a thermoelectric hydrolysis Tesla turbine that uses the thermal gradient from the radial tips to the center to produce a DC voltage potential. And now the math I had done was I needed about 5-inch discs and about 100 of them. Basic calculations, experiments that I found online, been able to produce X amount of voltage with a single strip of metal that was about the same length. And I did the calculations. About 100 discs with an 80 degrees Celsius temperature gradient should produce about a half a kilowatt and be able to attain at least a 1 to 3 voltage potential. And if you know electrolysis, you need about at least 1.4 volts. So this disc stack should be able to generate at least exactly enough voltage to start electrolysis of any sort of condensate that's flowing in the exhaust of the gas turbine, and or if this is a steam turbine and this condenses anywhere. If you check out my other video up here, I have what's called as the interstage heat exchanger. Makes this tubes here be a bunch of extra discs that go up much further here that allow for external air to come through, go through the extra outside discs, and that cooling, the air coming through, provides cooling. It cools the flow of the fluid that's going through the center here, and the natural rotation of the turbine allows for it, like the discs that are out here provide the heat exchange area and provide the way of wicking, or provide the way of pulling the air and pushing it through, because the disc stack on the outside here works like a blower or a compressor. So the whole rotary system spinning, hot fluids expanding through here, going through here and out to here. This would be isolated from here. You can see this for better in my video, but having this interstage heat exchanger, we can remove heat from anything that's in here. And of course we can continue to do that thermal gradient radius thermoelectric stack of all the discs across, so that this temperature gradient here further adds to the power output here, or the voltage out here. But if you cause some of the steam coming through here, I think the test I had looked at was an 80-degree gradient from 200 to 120 degrees Celsius. And as such, if you can cause any of that steam inside here to condense via the interstage heat exchanger, which preheats combustion air with the heat wicking off the air that's being flung through it with the rotors, that then this moisture that's condensed in here goes into the electrolysis disc stack for electrolysis to be burnt in a second stage turbine. And then this disc stack here also works as a second stage high vacuum pump on the exhaust of this. And then this can be doubled up. You can make it dual-sided so that from there you have positive on this side and negative on this side. So you can collect only hydrogen on this side and only oxygen on this side. As well, it also works as the compressor for it because it's a disc stack compressor. Separate, so you don't have to worry about any sort of combustion at all. The really cool part about this is beyond all of this, I even further then took this interstage duct I turned into a vortex tube, because the fluid coming in is going to be rotating, and as it decreases in radius, it's going to spin up, as this whole thing is already spinning too. But the fluid going through here will speed up in its rotation as it comes here, and you will get it. Again, this needs to be long enough. I did it short for the sake of being on the paper and clarity. But having this vortex tube means only the hot air will come out here, and the thermal energy can go towards some of the electrolysis. It won't be a lot, but it's some. But why this is the most important is that the colder air is then sucked through, or pushes its way through the slight vacuum, that the inner half of these discs works as a second vacuum pump. So like this is a really large one, but these inner discs allow it so that the fluid comes through here, and then this little short distance of the disc stack it won't be a lot, but it'll keep fluid going out. As the discs rotating, it draws it out, and then it comes out here. But out here then, the fluid being drawn through here will be cooled, which will further cool this side of the thermoelectric gradient so that you get an even higher potential output. This was my big, huge idea that I came up with years ago, and I'm literally just still trying to get these going, because once these are all finalized, I can start mass producing all of this. And I'm steps away from being able to get there. And now where this finalizes at, I had then further designed this so that this was just a solid cylinder, if you will, so that fluid coming in does the thermoelectric here, goes to the vortex tube, comes out to the electrolysis disc stack. You produce oxygen and hydrogen between the two disc sides. Obviously, there's going to be a bunch of little thin discs inside of each of the stack. I didn't draw them, so for clarity, again, over here, you'll have just as many of the discs here as you would in this side and this side. So what happens here is you get oxygen on this side, hydrogen on this side. The hydrogen is separated to here. The oxygen is separated to a pre-cooling chamber. And so basically, I turned that whole section here in between the two stages into the flame tube or combustion can that shrouds the center part here. So any heat produced in the combustion of this oxygen and hydrogen goes out to here, and I made it so that these are the Tesla valve rocket rotors. So that all of the combustion from this combustion can that goes actually down the length of the multi-stage rotor ends up burning and then providing reactionary force out. I just did this for clarity here, but you'll have an input of fluid in here that's coming out, and then all your excess goes out this way. So thermoelectric in cools this tip, creates a bigger gradient, produces more hydrogen and oxygen here. Those two are separated. They are then mixed and burnt down the length of this inner combustion can, and then go out radially and then tangentially around the rotor in the opposite direction, so that the fluid exiting the rotor provides torque in the drive direction with this. So this input will be pointing this way, but the exhaust of this rocket rotor will be pointing the opposite way. Ordinary torque from throwing the fluid that way, torque in this direction, and then the fluid from spinning in the turbine gets torque in the same direction. So you get the reactionary that way and you get impulse this way all together. And now this could be further separated. You could slide these down. You can make this as long as you want. Make this like a 4-foot tube if you wanted. Scale it up, whatever you need. You can see right here, this Tesla valve rocket rotor provides a reactionary torque in the direction of rotation with the Tesla turbine, which is impulse driving in the same direction.
Once that water turns into steam, it has no other option but to escape through the tiny nozzles placed in the arms, arranged tangentially to the center of rotation. These arms act as micro-rockets that propel the entire device around itself.
Yeah, this turbine is not a great way of producing power, but it's a great way of demonstrating how reaction turbines work. Tiny rockets propelling stuff around itself. I should probably put that on a t-shirt. You heard it here first. Don't forget to subscribe.
And where do you think he heard it from? Tesla valve rocket rotor. So you get thermoelectric, hydrolysis, and reactionary combustion can, flame tube, mixing, and Tesla valve rocket rotor, and thermoelectric out exhausts through here. This could be steam and hydrogen all done in one. So you have steam input. The steam input and temperature gradient from the steam input will build up hydrogen and oxygen inside the rotor here and then burn it for more torque, which is, again, this is heat gradient from the rotor that wasn't getting used to begin with. So by utilizing that heat gradient, you're making use of some of that energy to produce some more fuel that wasn't going to get used. And also you're going to get the highest friction heating of the discs from the fluid at the tips. So that'll further add to the temperature gradient alone. Steam input only, and then when you burn the hydrogen and oxygen, well, you get more water, so it just makes more steam. All of that then goes to a vacuum condenser. Ta-da! Thermoelectric, hydrolysis, disc stack, combustion can, Tesla valve rocket rotor, steam, combustion, hydrogen turbine for both rotational mechanical energy output, and if you want, you can even siphon off some of the DC voltage potential across the whole rotor here.
So, this is Charlie, and what makes him special enough for me to make a video about him is the fact that he built this weird turbine.
If you check out Integs's recent video, I'll put it up right here, by doing his gyroids inside of his electrolysis or hydrolysis machine, and then by the end of his video, he decides to start using a bunch of thin discs because you get a ton of surface area. That was the whole point of this specifically. Now, this was my grand idea that I came up with years ago, and I've been building to it, but haven't gotten there. And I'm sorry, Joel, but you made your video, and I'm like, okay, man, I gotta tell people. I'd already made a video about this years ago. It wasn't very well explained, but I needed it for the timestamp, and you can see it up here on my YouTube channel. No one will ever see it, but I posted it there so I could get a real timestamp of when I actually came up with this. Hope you guys enjoyed that.
This was a good idea, but it was short-lived. It works, but just for a while. It doesn't matter, because I just realized something. This is not the best way of getting the most surface area of a certain geometry. Just think about it.
If you have a cylinder, the best way of getting the most surface area in there is to stack a bunch of very thin discs on top of each other that are separated by a very small gap. Half is connected to positive, the other half is connected to negative, and ta-da! Perfect generator. My lattice is contained in a cylinder of 60 millimeters in diameter and 100 millimeters in height, and it has about 132 square inches of surface area. To get the same area with 60 millimeter discs, provided that I use 0.1 millimeter sheet steel, I would only need 15 discs to get the same area. Even if I use 2mm spacing between them, that would only be 32mm high. For the spacers, I could just use an outer ring with holes on the perimeter, but the steel discs are too thin and need support all over, and not just on the outer edge. Instead, I designed the 1.3mm thick gyroid spacer. In this way, the disc has support all over, and because of the unique geometry of the gyroid, the gas doesn't get trapped. I am actually pretty proud about this design. The spacers I printed in my Form 4 in batches of 10. That was easy. The hard part was removing all the support material by hand. It took me an entire morning to do that. So this works like this.
Now where do you suppose you came up with that idea?
You heard it here first. Don't forget to subscribe.
Do you know?
Oh no!
I determined I didn't need to know. I was already cleared at such a high level, handling presidential material. Original shape most likely was like a lenticular.
Lenticular. What does lenticular mean?
Disc-like craft.
It's a disc-shaped craft.
You know, with like two dinner plates smushed together, right?
Tesla disc turbine.
Classic. Like, yeah.
Saucer.
Disc propulsion.
Like that.
Like that.
It's true.
So that was the first time I ever saw something like that. Keep in mind, I never followed this topic, so every time I'm seeing one of these videos, I'm kind of seeing something for the very first time. So lenticular, whether it's a disc-shaped craft, or it's a wedge-shaped craft, or a boomerang in some cases, these were all new to me.
Then why the heck are we even relying on you for any of this if you don't even understand what you could be looking at, if it's regular human technology or not? If this is all new to you, and we have, like, this literally called a monowing.
It was very, very perplexing.
Gee, if I didn't know better, it almost seemed like these guys were running cover for the defense industry companies and not actually our government.
And obviously, to our military pilots, it was very concerning.
True.
But it looks like the edges broke off, so it became this like bell-shaped thing. And there was nothing in it. It was like just an artifact, you know. It's like Dave needs to disclose to a government official who, what, when, where, why, where the shit is, who's in control of it, what are the cover programs.
Counterintelligence.
Cover for Tesla disc turbine. The flying saucer. The whole confidential project was built around a Tesla disc turbines, and you want
cover program
to give the illusion of like aliens or whatever nonsense. You take
Jeremy Corbell.
Toss it in the air.
You could infer that.
You could infer that.
Yeah. And that's what deemed my complaint credible and urgent in July 2022.
How many times have you been told that Tesla turbines don't work? Can't produce power, have no torque.
Credible and urgent. It was sent to the Director of National Intelligence, and then it was sent to Congress in December of 2022. And it's a crazy story why it took so long. Credible and urgent in July 2022.
System for being able to do liquid fuels and gaseous fuels at the same time. Holy cow, this thing is putting out heat.
Does anyone else think it's like super weird?
My complaint, credible and urgent in July 2022.
How many times have you been told that Tesla turbines don't work? Can't produce power, have no torque.
Does anyone else think it's like super weird?
You could infer that.
You could infer that.
Yeah. Which is a credible solution in July 2022. Yes, was about reprisal too. I filed that separately eventually.
By using small amounts of throttle, the driver is being gentle on his vehicle, and, just as important, he's being considerate of the surface on which he is traveling.
Drop! Good as a fast car, a flash house, and a gold-plated dunny to me. Absolutely no good at all. I've been put on this planet to protect wildlife and wilderness areas, which in essence is going to help humanity. I want to have the purest oceans. I want to be able to drink water straight out of that creek. I want to stop the ozone layer.
Won't make it.
Your head is in the clouds. You're delusional. Dreamer!
Get a job!
You're boring.
What if it doesn't work? You think you're better than us? Give up. Weirdo!
I don't like you. You are so weird.
Just give up already.
Why are you even trying?
Art form, ridiculing people.
It's my destiny.
It's a vast area, and I think Andy and I have sketched out sort of our plan of attack. We're going to start in
Jeremy Corbell.
Then we're going to move up into the mountains toward
Travis Taylor,
where we've gotten all these reports of this Skinwalker Ranch. Put some
Special agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations.
ready to go.
good luck, fellas.
Makes sense. It can't be true.
I got all kinds of questions about like functionality, like how it works, and it's just a really unique.
Call me. And everyone else, check out my Earth Network playlist. It's right up here or down here.
You can come up with whatever theory you want.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
I hope this lesson is helpful.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Incredible and urgent in July 2022.
Wonder why? It's just a coincidence. If we
See what you've done? I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are, but you may want to start changing your ways. Or changing your name.